first term, that maybe we should believe him. That just because he talks about 60% tariffs, and most economists would say that's completely crazy, we shouldn't dismiss the fact that he might do that. And he has, I think it was a huge mistake that Congress made, though you understand why. He has unilateral authority over that. You would think this is weird. The Constitution gives taxing authority, and that's what tariffs are, to the Congress. But the Congress has delegated that all the president has to do is say there's some kind of national emergency, which, of course, to Trump, there's three national emergencies every day. So he can actually do that. So you have some handle on the numbers. On the mass incarceration and deportation promises, I don't think he'll ever get 11 million. What he'll get in the first year or so, I have no idea. It depends on how draconian and thorough they are. You can imagine pretty horrible scenarios there, but it's really guesswork.
Alan Blinder, I look at Republican, and of course your support of John Kerry and Al Gore and others puts you on the left side of the debate, but I look at the nuances of the conservative debate on economics, and I see someone acutely responsible like Glenn Hubbard at Columbia University, and then I see others within the milieu, including with President-elect Trump, who are basically saying growth at any cost. What's the price of a growth at any cost strategy?
Well, I think there are several possible ways. First of all, in pursuit of a will-o'-the-wisp, you may do silly or crazy things. That's the first thing you worry about. Like, for example, just to give you one example, we're on Bloomberg after all. Massive repeal of banking regulation. Sure, let's go back to 2007 or something like that. So there's that kind of a possible cost. And then the more obvious cost is the inflationary impact. If you just go full throttle on aggregate demand, for example, cutting taxes again on top, extending the previous Trump tax cuts and then cutting taxes again, you can start running into an inflationary problem unless, and this is the other big deal, the Fed steps in and stops it, and the president doesn't step in and stop the Fed somehow.
Professor, we had a pretty decent labor print here today, John, non-farm payroll. It seems like this labor economy, it just kind of continues month after month after month to kind of amaze a lot of investors here. How do you view the U.S. labor market?
Yeah, as you asked the question, I'm smiling. I think it's great. It's beyond what any of us, I think, would have imagined, beyond in a good sense, what any of us could have imagined a year and a half ago or something like that. I look at this number that just came out as hitting Paul.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and we're doing a live feed here on the big channel and on my other channel here on YouTube, where you have the telemetry of the market. This is all live feed, all active prices. The New York Stock Exchange has opened up already. We're already 7 minutes into the trading session. It takes me a little while to set everything up, so it's all live stream. I'll be setting up the X Spaces, so if you want to call in, you can call in through X Spaces. Just go there, raise your hand, and I will put you on the live show, and you can ask a question or give me your take on what we're covering. So the things that I want to do a market cap here, market recap. The S&P 500 is at 6,090. I still have a target of end of year anywhere from 5,800 to 6,100. It might be revised because there seems to be a lot of inflows that are going into the S&P 500 and some of the other major indices like the Russell 2000, Russell 2500. So we have the equity market higher. We may actually see a 6,100 today. VIX is low at 13.07. That means that there's low risk in the equity market. All right, that's at 13. It can't stay at 13 for very long. Normally, you want it to be at about 15. So, risk, we're too risk-taking, I think. So it needs to, I think I'd be a little bit happier if risk went up to about 15 and then stabilized at 15. 12, 13, I think it's too low. Euro USD is trading at 1.057. So, you know, relative to a few trading sessions, the dollar has weakened a little bit relative to the euro. Oil is trading lower at 67.32. So we'll pay attention to that, see what's going on. I also have on the dashboard, I put two new charts. The BITO. BITO is the Bitcoin ETF to go long. That's trading at 25.47. Yesterday it was trading at over 26. So right now that ETF is down by 0.03. So well, now it's down 4 cents per share. So that means that Bitcoin is slightly lower in price. The USD to yen is trading at 149.69. Yen is strengthening slightly compared to yesterday because yesterday's trade was around 150. So yen is trading a little bit stronger. So dollar is a little bit weaker, but not, you know, everything seems to be, you know, stabilized. New payrolls came out at about 227,000. It seemed to be a little bit, I personally think that it shows that the Federal Reserve should not lower rates. You have other economists that are saying that this data is saying that the Federal Reserve will lower rates. You know, I don't know. I think that the Federal Reserve should not be lowering rates at this moment in time. I think the Federal Reserve lowering rates with low unemployment and inflation higher than 2%, if they lower rates, that will lead, that could stoke more inflation. They should hold rates, not lower rates. But that's my take on it. So help support the channels by watching the live feeds, participating on X Spaces, participate in the chat, all right? Again, you can get the live feed on the big channel, you can get the telemetry on the other YouTube channel that I have. You can also see live on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, under broadcast live, and you can see either feed on my website. All right, so you can go to broadcast live, that will take you, and then you can see either feed, right? And then you can, you know, obviously you can large screen it. So you can see either feed, the dashboard feed or the larger screen feed. So it's up to you on how you want to do it. So there's lots of ways to take a look at this live feed, all right? The whole idea is I'm trying to build this out so we can handle information and cover information in real time and get your opinion on things. And so it should be interactive. But the ones that want to, you know, call in, make sure you do that through X Spaces. So follow me on X, watch the spaces that I'll be opening up, and if you want, or listen, I guess, and if you want to call in, raise your hand and I'll let you on. It's that simple, all right? So you call in through X Spaces. So let's go to, you know, since, you know, I'm from Detroit, let's go to the whole Lions thing. I think that they're talking about the betting on Lions on Bloomberg. So let's
Next
go
fall,
Yep.
starting, you know, into the season and all that, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna be more.
Absolutely, every year for the next several years, and until ultimately, it's all gonna be on streaming, I think.
I've already bought the NFL Sunday ticket.
Did you buy that?
Yes, I
That's a
did.
lot of money.
But boy, is it worth it. Because I can watch different games. I mean, it's a piece of work. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not pitching it, but boy, it is good.
Michael Barr, we went to the moon for this.
Yes.
I mean, we went to the moon so we could get, what's it called, NFL Sunday something?
Sunday
Sunday
ticket,
ticket, yeah.
Sunday ticket, yeah.
Lisa, they don't sell this at Costco. Did you see what that thing costs?
No, but my husband asked and we are not getting that.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Barr mortgaged a child to get it. Good morning, Bloomberg surveillance.
Okay, so they're on commercial here. I'm setting up the spaces here. And so if you want to do a call in, you can. All right, so we're on spaces now. You know, and it takes a lot of effort to set up this live stream because it's on multiple channels and it's multiple feeds. So before we continue on with the market, please help support my work. All right, you can help support my work many ways: sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me. You know, of course, YouTube bleeds my subscribers, and you know it tries to harm my reach to inform people. So subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to all 4 channels on YouTube, my Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble channels. Please help support the work. You can also help support the work by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee at the bottom of the homepage. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through the donations on my website and being a paid member on Patreon that allows me to put thousands of videos for free to inform people about how to improve their health, what my opinion is going on in economics and finance, what's going on internationally, and how to improve your health. All right, I put a lot of effort into this. All right, so please help support my work. So most of the videos that I do are for free. I do some medical lectures on pulmonology and immunology that I have put on my website. It's only $50. You learn a lot of information. You get PDF files, lots of them, and access to videos of me lecturing on a particular item, either on immunology or pulmonology, only for $50 for each module. So you can purchase that on my website under classes. Really simple. You get a unique password. You can log in anytime, as many times as you want, and download the PDFs. So it's a great way to learn about pulmonology and immunology. And over time, I'll continue to put on new modules. I think the next module I'll do is infectious diseases. So another way to help support my work is buy the products that I have on my store. I want you to follow what I'm doing, all right? And that is, you know, following a certain type of protocol to slow down the aging process and improve your health, all right? You can do that many different ways. The best way is to look at this multi-pronged, holistic approach. Proper diet, proper exercise, detoxify the body, do some balancing exercises, mindfulness, right? Challenge your brain, reading, writing, talking to people, learning new things, proper supplementation, some resistance training, some cardiovascular training, and that will take you a long way, all right? So please go to the store, follow my protocol, and help support the work. So let's go back to Bloomberg here before we go and take a look at some of the other
Trip around the sun, how about that?
Good.
Still here.
Good plans?
Oh yeah, all good. It's a weekend thing.
You've been, it's like a week celebration.
Yeah, exactly. You get this far.
Well, you went to Broadway last night.
So yeah, a
And
wonderful.
Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, a wonderful work.
Okay, I'm gonna jump
Great
to
show.
France
Incredibly
24. I'm gonna jump to France 24 because they're talking about martial law rejected by lawmakers. This is the South Korea issue that we were covering a couple days ago.
Our mess, if you will, and that has led to one of the biggest political crises this country has seen in years. South Korea's democracy is relatively young, it's strong, but it's not without its problems, though, I have to say. There are a lot of people here who are nostalgic of the authoritarian era. And Park Geun-hye, who was a president who was impeached in 2016, she was a daughter of a dictator, and she was elected democratically. She rode on the wave of nostalgia, and the Conservative Party saw no problem with putting her on the ticket. Then there's also a legal system that really struggles to reform here as well. Korea's prosecutors notoriously wield a lot of power, and this has times put into doubt if every single South Korean citizen is truly equal before the law. Yoon Suk-yeol himself was a prosecutor who rose up the ranks before becoming president as well.
Interesting stuff. Yana, thank you very much for that. Yana Lee joining us there from Seoul. Now, Bangladesh's interim leader is calling on the country's politicians to put on a united front to counter Indian aggression. Muhammad
Okay.
Yunus alleging New
I'm going to
Delhi
go to CNN because they're talking about the Syrian rebel leader says goal is to overthrow Assad. So that for the ones that don't know, there's kind of there's an uptick in battles and violence in Syria. Will Assad be overthrown? Who knows? But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I offer great supplements. One of the best antioxidants that you can get is C60. Because of the way the molecule is shaped, it can soak up a lot of free radicals. Free radicals do damage to your cells. You want to soak those up. Free radicals is what ages you. All right? Free radicals harms your mitochondria, so your energy source goes down for ATP. So you want to soak up those free radicals. And when you do that, your tissues perform better and you slow down the aging process and you have more energy. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. This you can get in MCT coconut oil, and avocado oil, and extra virgin olive oil. The reason why it's in an oil is that C60 is lipid soluble, so it has to be suspended in oil so you can absorb it, all right? So you can choose which oil that you want. Some people prefer the coconut oil, some people prefer the extra virgin olive oil or the avocado oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. The higher ounce configuration, the cheaper it is per ounce. So it behooves you to actually purchase from my store at the higher ounce configuration. Even though it's more expensive, it's cheaper per ounce. So that, that way it can try to help you with your budget. Now, you take a teaspoon a day. By taking a teaspoon a day, it's best where you take it on an empty stomach, so you get better body absorption. And what you'll notice is that your energy levels are going to start to go up over time. You're aging slower, and that you're going to start noticing that your body is performing a little bit better, especially when you are working out. Your recovery time is better. Your inflammation's lower, and a lot of these other glandular issues or endocrine issues, you'll start to see that your body's improving. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60, take it every day, take a teaspoon a day, all right? It's best to take it on an empty stomach. If you work out, take it before you work out because you will recover quicker. The reason why is that when you're working out, either cardiovascular exercise or weight training, you're producing free radicals, and you want to soak those up, and you'll recover quicker. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Follow what I do. I take this every day. It slows down the aging process, increases your longevity, increases your ATP, and improves the health of your cells. And when you do that on a regular basis, you're going to improve your body holistically. So please go to my store and get the C60. All right, so let's go to CNN and figure out what is going on in Syria. Now, if someone wants to chime in and tell me their opinion about Syrian conflict,
Click and Grow Smart Garden. You
please
can grow
do.
fresh.
All right, here we go.
Forces have now taken over Hama. That is the second major city they've captured since launching a surprise offensive last week. Syria's military says its troops had to withdraw from Hama after rebels entered several parts of the city in another blow to President Bashar al-Assad. Now, rebel fighters also freed hundreds of prisoners, saying they were all wrongfully detained. Some residents in Hama are now celebrating the rebel takeover.
Thank God, we've been waiting for this day for a long time, and we're all coming out on the street. This is the happiest day for us. We were afraid to go out at night. We've been waiting for this.
Feelings that can't be described. It's been 50 years we've been suffering injustice and crime and oppression. This is a historic moment, a priceless moment.
Priceless moment. Now, rebels are vowing to push further south to Homs, that is the next major city on the road to the capital, Damascus. CNN's Jumana Karatse sat down for an exclusive interview with the main rebel leader, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani. He says the Assad regime is, in his words, dead, and explains how his forces have been able to sweep through Syria.
Taking Hama, after taking it, I mean, how significant is this for you right now?
Before he continues, my take on this seems to be that we're siding on the rebels. The United States is supporting the rebels for Assad's overthrow. Now, is there a larger plan with military operations in the Middle East, with Israel? Because remember what I said, what's happening in the northern front is to try to knock out Hezbollah, right? And there's going to be a larger border system into Lebanon and into Syria. So is this part of a grand strategy? I don't know. But I find it very odd that there's a ramp up going on in Syria when Trump is basically signaling he's going to ramp down the Ukraine conflict. Now, let's look back when right before Trump left office, right? He kept on saying he wanted to get out of Afghanistan. Now, he wasn't able to get out of Afghanistan for multiple reasons. You know, the wonderful deep state was dragging their feet. And there was, you know, there was a grand strategy of exit, that certain things had to happen, and as long as those things happened, then an exit would be prudent. Some of those things weren't happening near the tail end of Trump's administration back in late 2019 and into 2020. So Biden gets in, and shortly after that, there is a quick withdrawal where they didn't follow all of the proposed checklist for an adequate withdrawal. It was a fiasco. And right after that, Ukraine starts to flare up. So it seems to me that you got for some reason, the deep state, the national security state in the United States, has to have a flare up that we're heavily involved in some sort of proxy war, either in the Middle East or in the European theater. All right. Now there is, 1 to 2 degrees of separation with the whole a conflict in these regions and how it ties to Russia, according to the deep state. But the point here is that Trump's going to try to de-escalate the European theater with Ukraine and Russia. Now, there's going to be some sort of peace agreement that happens. Most likely Russia's going to get some land. Ukraine is going to have to relinquish some of the Russian proper to reach this peace agreement. The oil, the fly in the ointment with this whole peace agreement is, what does Ukraine do when it comes to NATO? Does it get integrated into NATO or not? And at the same time that this flare-up with Syria is happening, there's this flare-up that's going on in Georgia. So, and Putin has been on the record with Tucker Carlson that it's the CIA that's, pushing, helping along some of these rebels. So now we have 2 rebel areas that are happening, Georgia and Syria. It seems to me that the United States is funding, supporting. Now, I could be wrong on this, but that's my take at this moment in time. That the national security state is suspecting that this European conflict in Ukraine is going to die down under Trump. But they're situating it in such a way where he's going to have to deal with a growing conflict in the Middle East, which is probably even going to be more problematic than some sort of European conflict with Ukraine. But I could be wrong, but that's my rough take on this at this moment in time. You know, just roll out Akbar, you know, just roll out Akbar, throw, you know, some CIA money at him, and, you know, you have a rebel force fighting Assad.
Perspective, what comes after Hama will not be the same as what came before. However, I prefer not to be overly optimistic during the battle. I like to remain cautious and vigilant to avoid complacency and ensure we don't suffer losses while believing we are safe.
What comes after this? What's after Hama?
The course of the battle, as for the secrets of the battle, let's leave them to the unfolding events. You will witness them in reality, which is better than discussing them now.
In a matter of days, you have taken major cities. What's changed? How are you able to do this now?
In recent years, there has been a unification of internal opinions and the establishment of institutional structures within the liberated areas of Syria. This institutionalization included the restructuring within military factions. They entered unified training camps and developed a sense of discipline. This discipline allowed them, with God's guidance, to engage in a battle in an organized manner. The progress and execution of plans have been swift, with clear communication and adherence to commands. They stop where they should stop and withdraw where they should withdraw. The revolution has transitioned from chaos and randomness to a state of order, both in civil and institutional matters and in military operations alike.
Some believe this is happening because the allies of the Assad regime, the Russians, Hezbollah, Iran, that they are weakened, they're preoccupied with other wars. And this is why we are seeing this happen right now. And the Syrian regime itself weakened. Is this what is happening right now? Is this why you chose to launch this offensive right now?
As you know, we are still in the midst of the battle, and discussing such details at this time is not wise.
But you faced more of a resistance in Hama than you did in Aleppo. What do you think happened? Why did the regime withdraw like it did?
The seeds of the regime's defeat have always been within it. It has been effectively dead since that time. However, the Iranians attempted to revive the regime, buying it time, and later the Russians also tried to pop it.
I tell you, it's sometimes when you cover these types of events, you get just a gut feeling, and it's not logical. When I look at this guy, I just keep on thinking, this sounds like the 1980s with Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. I'm not saying it exactly is, it's just I get that same rhyme.
But the truth remains, this regime is dead.
In the last year, it seemed like Bashar al-Assad survived the war. He was welcomed back into our fold.
There's this Michigan inflation seems to be, I just missed it. It seems like it was at 3 point, I think it was a little bit less than expected for the 5 to 10 year, above 3%. Michigan December current conditions at 77.7 versus 63.9. So that's better. Michigan year ahead inflation expectation rise to 2.9% versus 2.6%. So we're having economic data coming in. Now my take, again, why I said the Federal Reserve shouldn't be lowering rates. Unemployment is too low. it's below what is called natural unemployment rate of 5. If anything's below 5%, it's below the natural unemployment rate. That means the economy's too hot. When you couple that with inflation that's above a 2% target, then if the Federal Reserve lowers rates, it's going to heat up the job market even more and increase inflation. The Federal Reserve doesn't need 100 economists, econometric experts, and a bunch of Ph.D.s. It's really simple. 2 rules. What's the unemployment rate? Is it above or below 5%? And what's the inflation? Is it above or below 2%? It's that simple. That simple. It doesn't need a bunch of, but the problem is you just throw in a bunch of other variables and they try to justify a certain policy. Now, of course, you have to look at the trend of data, not just the static data point. What's the unemployment? What's the inflation rate? But what's the trend? Is it going down? Is it going up? The speed of the trend, So, the first and second derivative of the data set. But it's just 2 major variables. Unemployment rate and what's the inflation based on target, which is 2%. So if the Federal Reserve lowers rates, it's not going to be good in the long run because it's going to be inflationary. We have too many people that are employed, maybe inefficiently, and we have prices that are too high. So if you have a little bit of a downturn in the employment, then what will happen is that prices will start to drop because consumer consumption goes down, and you're going to start having things more affordable. Then people will realize that there's this, that minor recession, starts to improve, and people will start to invest again in businesses, and there will be a new cycle. But they've been trying to engineer a soft landing for so long that I think the Federal Reserve is, if they continue to lower rates, that it could be inflationary. Now the problem is that Trump wants lower rates, because the thought is that you're going to be able to invest, you're going to take out loans at a lower rate, people will be able to buy homes, and it will be good for the economy in the long run. But I'm concerned that the Federal Reserve has been printing way too much money. And a lot of this money that they're printing is trying to financially engineer the overspending that's going on at the federal government. Big problem. All right, let's continue on with Assad, because I jumped in with this whole data dump that came from Michigan.
World stage.
The Arab countries' evaluation of the situation was mistaken. Some Arab countries try to separate the regime from Iran's project. This is impossible. Even if the regime wanted this, it can't implement it. It's a subservient relationship. Iran can disengage from the regime, but the regime can't. To describe the regime as victorious is deeply unjust to the many children, people, women subjected to rape in prisons, displaced individuals scattered across the world, those drowning in the seas, and those living in tents on the borders of other countries. What kind of victory are we talking about?
In the past, you have talked about strict Islamic rule. Is that still the plan?
People who fear Islamic governance either have seen incorrect implementations of it or do not understand it properly. We are talking about something that aligns with the traditions and nature of the region. The most important thing is to build institutions. We are not talking about rule by individuals or personal whims. It's about institutional governance. Syria deserves a governing system that is institutional, not one where a single ruler makes arbitrary decisions.
Many Syrians are happy and will be happy to see the end of the Assad regime, but they're also worried
And I
about
go to Bloomberg with this data, that came out here.
This flash being brought to you by IBKR. With Interactive Brokers Forecast Trader, you can trade your views
All right,
on
so
key
consumer
economic
sentiment
market indicators. Visit IBKR.com/forecast. Get started today. Yeah, another record. S&P 500 on track for that. 22 points higher. 6,097 on the index. Traders boosting bets on the December Federal Reserve rate cut. They have to look.
I honestly don't think that the Federal Reserve should be cutting rates, but you know, it's not what I think, it's what the trend is. So the S&P 500 is trading at 6,097. During this live feed, we probably are going to see the S&P 500, at least intraday trade, break 6,100. I don't know if I don't think it'll close above that, but it's definitely intraday going to break it. It looks like it'll break it. All right, let's continue on with CNN here. Get done with Akmar.
No one has the right to erase another group. These sects have coexisted in this region for hundreds of years, and no one has the right to eliminate them. There must be a legal framework that protects and ensures the rights of all, not a system that serves only one sect, as Assad's regime has done.
You know, listening to you speaking, you've gone through quite the transformation. Once an Al-Qaeda leader, your group has had affiliations with Al-Qaeda, with ISIS, and now you're projecting this image of a moderate leader and a moderate group. What is HTS right now?
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is one of the factions in the region, just like all the others. Now we're talking about a larger project. We're talking about building Syria.
I'm telling you, if they have an acronym, it's coming out of the CIA. They have HTS now. You might as well just have a tattoo that says CIA funded on his forehead. God.
Is merely one detail of this dialogue, and it may dissolve at any time. It's not an end in itself, but a means to perform a task confronting this regime. Once that task is complete, it will transition to a state of governance, institutions, and so on. I believe that everyone in life goes through phases and experiences, and these experiences naturally increase a person's awareness. A person in their 20s will have a different personality than someone in their 30s or 40s, and certainly someone in their 50s.
So are those days behind you?
Sometimes it's essential to adjust to reality, and because someone who rigidly clings to certain ideas and principles without flexibility cannot effectively lead societies or navigate complex conflicts like the one happening in Syria.
People listening to this are going to wonder why they should believe you. You are still a specially designated global terrorist by the United States with a $10 million bounty on your head. Your group is a prescribed terrorist organization by the United States, by the UN, by the EU, and others.
I say to people, don't judge by words, but by actions. I believe the reality speaks for itself. These classifications are primarily political and at the same time wrong. I define a terrorist as someone who intentionally kills civilians, harms innocents, or displaces people. If we're being honest, many of the wars waged by major powers in Arab, Muslim, and even non-Muslim countries have involved the deliberate killing of thousands, the destruction of homes, and the displacement of millions. Even the regime itself is guilty of such actions.
But the US and others would say is that you were parts of groups that did exactly that.
Personally, I have not done these things. The situation must be understood in its historical context. There was a massive war in Iraq that deeply stirred people's emotions, prompting many to go there. The circumstances of that war led people to various places, and my path led me to one of those locations. Given my level of awareness and my young age at the time,
sounds like Afghanistan in the 80s, and then teleported all the way back, teleported to post 9/11, 2001. You have people that are aligned with the CIA, then become not aligned with the CIA, or they start as not aligned with the CIA and then become aligned with the CIA. This guy, we are funding this guy. We are, there's no doubt in my mind now that gut feeling I have is that we are funding HTS.
my actions evolved to where I am today. I didn't go to Iraq with those intentions. I went to defend the Iraqi people. When I returned to Syria, I didn't want to bring what happened in Iraq into Syria. That's why there were disagreements between us and ISIS.
People would be wondering why you've agreed to speak with us.
What is happening in Syria is significant for the entire world. This event has positive repercussions globally because under the regime's rule, Syria became a source of concern and trouble for everyone.
All right, I'm going to jump out of the CNN one, and I want to go to Al Jazeera. They're talking about the Syrian
stakeholder. They have in the past supported Assad militarily. They have sent men, they have sent weapons. Is Hezbollah today in a position, are they able and or willing to support Assad?
Well, Hezbollah has been severely weakened in recent weeks. It lost hundreds, if not a few thousand fighters in its confrontation with Israel. Yesterday, we heard Hezbollah's Secretary General Naim Assim say that Hezbollah will stand by the side of Syria and do whatever it can. But there is a reality. How much can Hezbollah do? Even if it sends a few hundred men or a few thousand men, it will be very difficult to really reverse the rapid gains that are being made by these rebel forces. Israel continues to pile military pressure, not just on Hezbollah, but Iran and its allies in Syria. In recent weeks, we've seen Israeli Air Force target weapons depots, trucks, anything that they plan to transfer from Syria into Lebanon. Just this morning, one of the border crossings between Lebanon and Syria was totally destroyed. It's now out of service. So you have this war within a war in Syria, weakening Iran, preventing it from entrenching itself militarily in Syria. And this is not a new war. Yes, we've seen the escalation in the past few weeks, but it started years ago. And really what we saw in Lebanon, Hezbollah losing its top leadership, and the way the intense Israeli bombing campaign, destroying areas where Hezbollah has influence, it really has, it needs to pick up the pieces here in Lebanon. So many really doubt that Hezbollah will be able to play an important role like it did in the past. And you mentioned the Abu Kamal border crossing between Iraq and Syria. That was a crossing that was under the control of Iran and its allies. Very strategic in the sense that this was a border crossing that linked the so-called Tehran land corridor from Iran, Iraq, Damascus to Beirut, so that Hezbollah could be supplied with weapons and whatever it needs from Iran. So Hezbollah is on the back foot at the time being, and it is clear that the regime is not receiving the help from its allies like it did in the past.
All right, Zaina, thank you very much. We're going to take this now to Noor O'Day from Amman. Noor, a little preface here, because we're going to talk about another border crossing. Border crossings matter, especially when there's a conflict. And we are seeing that the Lebanon-Syria border crossing was struck today, attacked by an Israeli airstrike. We're seeing that the Syria-Iraq border crossing may have been taken now by Kurdish fighters. And Jordan has shut its borders with Syria. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Cyril, Jordan is a country affected by all the conflicts we are covering. It is situated right in the middle of it, and it has shut down its border with Syria already. This is a country hosting more than 700,000 Syrian refugees, so it has been affected by the conflict in Syria since the beginning of the conflict, since 2011. There are serious concerns in Jordan that the security ramifications of what is happening, that the fallout of what is happening could infiltrate Jordanian territory. And there is some fear, some apprehension that there might be an influx of people fleeing the fighting, if there is any, in Daraa in particular. And so a lot of precautions are taken there. Also in line with Jordan's policy of trying to protect the country from all those fires raging in the region. Sarah, you have the war in Lebanon, you have the war in Gaza, you have Iran, you have Iraq. All of these countries, everything that happens in that region affects Jordan and what happens here, and that's why you see all that heightened alert.
Another border area is the one between Syria and Israel in the occupied Golan Heights, and Israel announced that it is increasing its military posture there in light of the developments in Syria. What are you learning about that?
Yeah, it's been very interesting to watch the Israeli analysis of what is happening. As early as Wednesday, Israeli media started reporting that the security establishment there estimates that the threat for the complete collapse of the Syrian regime is very real. We saw an emergency security consultation meeting on Thursday in Israel. There is one scheduled for Saturday evening and another for Sunday evening. So Israel taking this very, very seriously. It's very interesting, though, how the stars have aligned, because on the one hand, Israel stands to benefit from this corridor that Zaina and Rasul were talking about, that was supplying weapons and support to the Syrian regime, but also to Hezbollah in Lebanon from Iran. But on the other, the Israeli government has some concerns, some questions really more than anything, about what are the ramifications of the rebels controlling the Golan area. Remember that Israel occupies part of the Syrian Golan Heights. It wants to know who's going to be on the other side. The Syrian regime bordered it. It didn't have relations with Israel, but there was a rapprochement between the two countries. There are no guarantees that this would persist, but certainly on the one hand, it's good news in relation to Hezbollah and Iran. On the other, a lot of security concerns.
Noor, thank you very much for all of that. That's Al Jazeera's Noor O'Day reporting from Amman, Jordan. And as opposite.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Fox. We're gonna talk about now the murder of the CEO from United Health. But before I do that, we're in the cold season in the United States. All right, it's really important. Trust me. Pay attention to what I'm saying. It's really important that you prepare yourself, because cases for, the cold season are going to be going up in December and January. All right, and it's going to be different pathogens. All right, so it's really important to boost up your immune system and just be prepared that if someone in your household gets sick, if you are around someone at work, or if you get sick, you need to mitigate it right away. All right, a great way to do that is to use the structural nanosilver drops and lozenges that I have. I have blueberry drops in 100 count, honey and lemon in 100 count, and also cherry in 100 count. Get a couple bags for your household. Be prepared. The moment you have that irritation in your throat, right, or you're starting to have some sort of nasal drainage, take the drops right away. And when you do that, then what's going to happen is you're neutralizing the irritant, and you're maintaining a mucosal barrier to try to mitigate further infection. All right, it's really important to take these lozenges and neutralize the irritant right away. All right, get a couple bags for your household. You're going to be around people, trust me, at home, at work, at school, within your community, at church or synagogue or whatever. Cases are going to be going up. All right, so please be prepared. Make sure you have the structural nanosilver lozenges. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get a couple bags of these lozenges, very high quality. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. In addition, it's really important to take a multivitamin, all right? You need multivitamins to boost up your immune system and to have the ingredients that your cells need as cofactors for enzymes, so your enzymes are working properly. So please go to my store and get the multivitamin. This is easy to digest. It should be part of your daily stack. Take this every day to improve your cellular processes, making sure that you have all the cofactors that you need for proper enzymatic activity. Very important. If you want to know all the different vitamins that I have in this multivitamin, go to my store, take a look at the label. I don't have time to read everything. So please go to my store and get the multivitamin. Take it. It's a very high quality, easy to digest multivitamin. So let's go to Fox News and take a look at what's going on with this murder of the CEO.
In hunt for the gunman who murdered the United Healthcare CEO enters its third day right now. Chaley Painter is here in Studio One with the latest evidence that could solve the case. Chaley.
That's right. Hey, Steve. So police appear to be closing in on the identity of the man suspected of gunning down 50-year-old Brian Thompson Wednesday morning outside a New York City hotel. Police sources revealing to Fox that they have a cell phone.
Now let's pay attention here. United Health is a major insurance company, and they were denying people coverage, and they were trying to slow walk it. They deny, they fight it in court, so they can have a profit. Now my understanding is that they were also using artificial intelligence to make the decision to cut the benefits. Now isn't that lovely that we're going to use this technology where a robot or some sort of algorithm is going to tell you if you should be thrown over a cliff because you're too old. I don't really feel that sorry for the CEO.
Was dropped by the suspect near the scene with fingerprints and a water bottle purchased by the suspect at a nearby Starbucks that is being used to build a DNA profile. We are also learning the suspect arrived in the city more than a week ago on a Greyhound bus from Atlanta before checking into a hostel in the Upper West Side using a fake ID and paying in cash. These photos were taken at that hostel, the first images to show the alleged masked assassin's face smiling. Reportedly, in a moment, he pulled his face covering down to flirt with the hostel clerk. Police sources saying he shared a room there with at least 2 other men.
What I heard is that he stayed on the 407, like really next to the bathroom, like right next to mine. I'm used to violence because I'm from Rio de Janeiro. There's a lot there, but like not that kind of like cold and articulate and professional killing.
Police are also homing in on the type of gun used in the murder. A firearms expert telling Fox this, quote, "It is a very unique pistol and they don't make that many of them. If it is the gun, they will be able to narrow him down to a very small number of purchasers. And while a motive is still not clear, as we reported yesterday, the suspect left behind possible clues in the words "deny, depose, defend" written on shell casings and live rounds left there at the scene, possibly a message to the murdered CEO of one of the largest healthcare companies in the world. Steve.
Lots of more details. Chaley, thank you very much. Let's bring in Frank Loveridge. He's a former Secret Service special agent in charge of all sorts of stuff. He worked with George W. Bush, Barack Obama. It's good to have you, Frank.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we've got a much better picture of this guy because when he checked in, apparently he was wearing a black mask, a face mask, and starts flirting with the hostel clerk. And she said, "I got to see your face," probably to check you in. Mm-hmm. He pulled it down. He's smiling. We got a better idea. Where does it go from here?
Well, I think they're closing in on him now. It's the 4th day right now. We're looking at, we have a facial recognition on him now. We've got some DNA possibly off of one of the items he had, water bottle. Then we got a phone we need to look into. Right. We know we've tracked him coming from Atlanta, from the south, on a bus, arriving at Port Authority. So we've got great photos from that. Hey, look, NYPD did an amazing job of putting this together. By running all those camera feeds together, and and basically pinning him down and getting these great shots.
Right.
So I think it's going to be just a moment of time before we have him in custody.
Well, it does seem like he made some sort of mistakes, and the cop.
He's probably less professional than I originally thought. But the NYPD has all this time and all this capability to hunt down someone that murdered a CEO that's literally throwing Granny over the cliff by not covering her medical bills, all right? They have all the time. The government, the city has all the resources to find this guy, but they don't have the resources to stop the never-ending theft and crime, the day-to-day crime that's going on. I mean, come on. You know what? All the thievery that's going on at these retail stores is a much bigger problem than some CEO getting blown away on a New York street.
Are good, and they've now got a pretty good picture of who they suspect. All right, Frank, we also have some pretty good pictures of something nobody can explain in New Jersey. I got a note from our Dr. Ken yesterday and said, what's the deal with the drones? Because these mysterious drones have been flying over portions of New Jersey. And as you can see right there, that was Bernardsville Wednesday, not too far from Bedminster, where the president has got his golf course.
Correct.
What do we know about this?
I don't think we know a whole lot about it. It's been reported since November 25th. It's been several weeks now, and it's pretty obvious. Multiple reports coming in. Now, we got a military research facility in that area. We have a pharmaceutical company in that area. We also have the Trump's golf courses in that area as well. So we need to be concerned about that. But we need to identify who's flying these drones, and if they're not friends of the government, we need to go ahead and make sure we interview these people and find what their intentions are.
I think because there's so many incidences around the country and around the world, actually, that it's probably a series of different people that are doing these drones, all right? I don't think it's ET, all right? It's not ET phone home. It's not an alien. Aliens don't need flashing lights on their spaceship while they're traveling through the galaxy to land, in Utah. All right? They don't need lights. So they're man-made. All right? Now, I think that what's happening in most of the cases in the United States, in these protected areas, or these areas that are areas that an enemy of the country, let's say China, may want to surveil and also intimidate. I would not be surprised that it is some sort of foreign country drone, all right? What's amazing to me is how inept our military is to these little drones, right? What happens if some sort of munition is put on these little drones and they start actually blowing up things? Big problem. Now, I think there's another group that's within the deep state or the national security state, as part of the Defense Department, that has things to try to create a little bit of a psyop on the population. Make them think that maybe it's a foreign country projection to give the national security state more power. The point I'm making here is just this. We have enemies like China that want to do harm to the country. These enemies need to be dealt with. We also have pranksters in the United States that are flying drones. And then you have a national security state that wants to create a psyop of fear to give them more power. Now, I find it really odd that ET and an alien invasion is happening right before the Trump inauguration. Now, either I'm wrong in that ET is really impressed with what happened during the election and they want to watch, you know, the inauguration for Trump, which I don't think is the case. Or is it that the national security state is doing some sort of psyop in conjunction with what's going on with China's infiltration of our airspace, aka spy balloons and spy drones, that it gives them the opportunity, the national security state, to go up to Congress and ask for more power. Meanwhile, Trump is trying to restructure the national security state and reduce their power. So like I said, 2025, all the way through the rest of Trump's administration, second term, is going to be chaotic. In overall, I feel very bullish about America, especially in the long term. But it's going to be chaotic. There's going to be a bumpy road with during the Trump administration. But I don't think it's ET. I don't think it's ET with it's some sort of, it's like I said, you have some pranksters, you have probably some enemies, you know, like China, maybe even Russia, that are flying in our airspace to surveil. It would be problematic if they have munitions on those drones. And I think the larger scale stuff are psyops by the national security state. Because if you get rid of Russia, you end the Cold War, and you get rid of Islamic Jihad, who else are you going to attack? Why would you need such a bloated out military-industrial complex unless you try to convince people that ET wants to phone home at the White House? Yeah, right. So, you know, keep this in mind. I think there's multiple layers to this problem. But I would say majority of the things that are happening, let's say in New Jersey, I would not be surprised the majority of it is some sort of Chinese infiltration in our airspace. Now the question is how could we have our Defense Department so inept? Big problem, big problem.
The acting Secret Service director said that autonomous canines are guarding Mar-a-Lago. And I know when we were at the RNC in Milwaukee over the summer, they did have drones, fixed drones, that they had just hovering above it.
Right.
But these have running lights and they're moving, so it's not like they're just taking a look at everything going on.
Yeah, we don't want mapping the golf course looking for vulnerabilities. Like we saw in Mar-a-Lago, there's an area that photographs were taken of the president when he was golfing. These are vulnerabilities areas. Could it be someone out there mapping this area to find out an advantage, a place that they could...
Some sort of country that is an enemy to the United States invading our airspace, and some sort of national security state psyop.
Set up for an attack. I mean, this is something we got to look into, but bottom line is I think we should know who these people are that fly these drones.
Do you have a guess?
I think it's us.
You think it's us?
Oh, I think it is. I mean, by this time...
Our intel people?
It could be research development, part of a project they're working on. I know Amazon is in that area as well. So who knows what's going on out there. But 3 weeks has gone by and we haven't seen a lot of reports on who these individuals are.
Man, it could be Amazon. Jeff Bezos, call us. Call Frank.
You know, and that's an interesting thing that he's saying. Why is this all happening at night? Why few people see this during the day? Now, there are situations where they do see strange objects that are floating around that are odd looking, all right, during the day, but most of the stuff that we're talking about here is all at night. Most of it. What's going on? Now, maybe a citizen should, you know, do some practice shooting and find out what's flying over their house. Because the way I understand it, your airspace over your house and the land underneath your house, you own.
Thank you, Steve.
Frank, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm Steve Juicy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch.
But you'll have a bunch of flat earthers out there. You have a lot of people that think it'll be ET. Stupid. A lot of people will buy into this, the stupidness. Let's see, what's going on here? What's going on in my news? Let's play Times Radio. I'd be interested here. Putin's Mediterranean outposts at risk as Syria rebels take key cities. All right, so there's coupling.
If you go back to 2020, there was a Russian-Turkish peace treaty, or peace deal, ceasefire, negotiated around Idlib. And what that did was that froze the conflict. So you have this conflict which has been running for a long time, it basically froze. In the intervening period, the Syrian state has reinvented itself as a narco-state. It's producing Captagon on a huge scale, which is flooding the markets, sort of synthetic amphetamine that's causing huge problems in the Middle East, Jordan particularly, in regional states. But you have to remember that Turkey and Russia were fighting each other in Syria, and that was the ceasefire in 2020 was negotiated to bring about an end to that.
Well, that was the midday update. Now
let me just do a recap of the market here. S&P 500 is trading at 6,097.79, so we're getting close to that 6,100 mark. VIX is trading at 1310, so very low VIX. The Euro USD is trading at 1.05 during the trading session. The dollar is gaining a little bit. Oil is trading at $67 a barrel. Bitcoin ETF for long is trading at 25.61, and the USD yen pair is trading at 149.96. So the dollar is, during the trading session, is slightly strengthening. All right, let's continue.
about what is happening in Syria. Tens of thousands of people are fleeing the Syrian city of Homs as Islamist-led rebels continue to make advances. The group, which is called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, seized the city of Hama yesterday in a further blow to President Bashar al-Assad, who lost control of Aleppo last week. I'm joined now by Charlie Gamble, who's a former British diplomat and an expert on the Middle East. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Hi Ed, how are you?
Very well. Tell us what is happening in Syria.
Well, I think as with everything in the Middle East, the local is regional and the regional is local. And what we're looking at here is, even though it's not a collapse of the Assad government, it's definitely an indication of how weak the Assad government is. And these rebels that are marching south, and they took obviously Aleppo recently, and then Hama, and now marching on Homs, they grew up out of the anti-Assad resistance, which started in 2011. Their makeup is Islamist, their makeup is jihadist, and within this coalition of groups, under which sits also under the HTS umbrella, there are different...
Introducing PuraCleanse Core, the first of its kind 5-stage air and surface purifier. Core combines the performance of...
Yes, umbrella. There are different Turkish-backed Islamist groups that have been around basically since the start of the civil war in Syria. And I think the regional aspect here is that this is, I would see it as an unintended consequence of the weakening of Iran, the weakening of Hezbollah, and the weakening of, or I suppose the distraction of Russia, on whom the Syrian regime depends for its domestic control and its domestic stability.
Yes, so that's exactly right, isn't it? I mean, Israel having attacked Hezbollah and also obviously taken on Iran, either directly or indirectly, weakens a huge amount of support for Assad's regime. What I don't understand is how much Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, how much influence Turkey has on them, and what the significance is in terms of obviously Turkey's relationship with Syria, Turkey's relationship with Russia.
So I think the important thing here is that if you go back to 2020, there was a Russian-Turkish peace treaty, or peace deal, ceasefire negotiated around Idlib. And what that did was that froze the conflict. So you have this conflict, which has been running for a long time, it basically froze. In the intervening period, the Syrian state has reinvented itself as a narco-state. It's producing captagon on a huge scale, which is flooding the markets, sort of synthetic amphetamine that's causing huge problems in the Middle East, Jordan particularly, in regional states. But you have to remember that Turkey and Russia were fighting each other in Syria, and that was the ceasefire in 2020 was negotiated to bring about an end to that. And this conflict has been frozen since then. And the interesting thing there, I'll touch on Turkey-Russia, is that this is another indication that these conflicts in the region, they don't go away. We look at 2001 in Afghanistan, when we thought the Taliban was defeated. It rose again. We look at 2003 in Iraq, when we thought that the Ba'athist state had been defeated, but actually it just reinvented itself as IS to a degree. So these conflicts have a nasty habit of sparking back to life at very difficult times. Turkey-Russia relations are very complicated, and Syria is a sphere of influence, and I think we have to understand that when the world was concerned with ISIS, Russia and Iran were fighting against ISIS in Syria and Iraq, obviously. And when Donald Trump and when the West talk about having defeated ISIS, the Iranians would say, well, actually, no, you didn't defeat ISIS, we defeated ISIS. And a big complaint amongst the Iranians is always that the West's funding and arming of these anti-Assad groups from sort of 2013, 14 onwards was the sort of thing that the Iranians think ISIS grew out of. I mean, that's not quite true, but that's the accusation that Iran levels against the West, that instead of defeating ISIS, they actually helped create it. And Russia has a big interest in maintaining the port at Tartus, which is a strategic port for it into the Mediterranean, just as Iran has these strategic spheres of influence in Syria. And if you look at Homs and Hama, these are points through which Iranian arms shipments go to Hezbollah in Lebanon. So this is a really critical moment for Iran's support of Hezbollah. And even though people in Tel Aviv and Washington might rejoice at the defeat of Hezbollah or the weakening of Iran, we may very well soon have to contend with a massive problem, which is the creation of an Islamist state in Syria.
Well, exactly, that's the point. That is the point, isn't it, Charlie? That is what is so interesting, that it's not coming out clearly enough. You've referred, I think, to ISIS 3.0. It is a profoundly kind of paradoxical point that in seeking to take down Assad and in theory backing, democracy in inverted commas, the right of the people against this dictator, you end up funding an army, arguably as we did in the 1980s in Afghanistan, a force which is profoundly anti-Western and will increase.
See, this is exactly
massively.
what I was saying. This is all real, real time, and and I didn't see this video, but this is exactly what I was saying in the beginning of this broadcast. HTS seems like Afghanistan all over again in the 80s, and CIA and all this stuff, and the host of Times Radio was saying the same thing. So I'm not the only one picking up on this feeling of what's going on with Syria and these rebels.
Security risks in Western countries.
Yeah, and I think if we zoom out one.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, but Sparks dissolve under the tongue.
Yeah, and I think if we zoom out
of course, when we're listening to Times Radio, we have to have a Viagra commercial. Please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great deodorant bars. I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've created these deodorant bars. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and in citrus. This is made from essential oils from the Himalayas, very high quality deodorants, all right? In addition, this is a dual purpose product. You use it as a deodorant. It's for males and females. You use it as a deodorant every day because you want to smell nice, but it'll help to detoxify your body. This has no aluminum in it, no baking soda in it, all natural ingredients, essential oils from the Himalayas, very high quality. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the peppermint, lavender, and tea tree deodorant or the citrus deodorant. Get a couple bars for your household and help support my work and help support your health. And, it's really important, especially when we're in the cold season, all right, to improve your immune system. How do you do that, all right? You want to bring down inflammation. You want to bring down that chronic inflammation. So when your immune system needs to work, it can work. So please, take the ashwagandha root. It helps to control your blood glucose levels and your cortisol levels, right? And that will bring down inflammation and help with your immune system. And turmeric. Turmeric is really important. Why? It's dual purpose. It's an antioxidant, but it also brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. These work together, and what will happen is you'll be improving your immune system and you're improving your cardiovascular system. Because a lot of people don't realize you build up plaque because of inflammation in your vascular system. Bring that down. Improve your cardiovascular system and improve your immune system at the same time by taking ashwagandha root and turmeric together. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and improve your cardiovascular system and your immune system. It's a great stack. I just told you, 2 great products on my store that will help with cardiovascular health and your immune system. So go to the store, get the turmeric and the ashwagandha.
Further, the challenge I think particularly UK Foreign Office and policy has is that there is a failing of strategy there. You use the example of 1980s in Afghanistan. Once that war was finished, we all thought, well, that war's finished, we can move on to bigger and better problems. And I think we did the same thing after ISIS fell. We thought, well, actually, the problem of counterterrorism is no longer a thing. Our big problem is hostile state actors, Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, people who can pose a more strategic threat to us. But actually, what we fail to realise is that if we close one door, then we just leave one door open to someone else somewhere else. And I remember working as a diplomat in North Africa, and you'd have a lot of the North African government saying to me, Britain's taken its eye off counterterrorism, and actually that's just going to leave the door open to counterterrorism to start again. And you use the example of those camps in the north of Syria, which are run by Syrian Democratic Forces, the Kurdish militias, that are stocked to the brim with ISIS adherents, ISIS sort of zealots, and their children. And the point at which those prisons get opened up, if that might happen, is kind of disaster zone for spread of Islamism across the region. So a really interesting lesson in unintended consequences, and a really interesting lesson that the world is global now. Geopolitics, you can't ignore one space and expect it to go away. These things will always have a habit of reappearing.
Johnny Gamble, former British diplomat, expert on the Middle East, thank you for coming on and discussing the situation as it is developing in Syria.
All right, so that was Times Radio. And Bloomberg is in commercial right now, so let's take a look at the news. I like to go over I want to go over Democracy Now! Let's see. We haven't played Democracy Now! In a while, so let's see what they have.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Syria, the leader of the powerful armed opposition group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a former al-Qaeda affiliate, has declared opposition forces have taken complete control of the central city of Hama. In an interview with CNN published today, Abu Muhammad al-Jalani said his group's ultimate goal is to overthrow Syria's authoritarian president Bashar al-Assad. Armed groups now control Hama's military airport, and we're seeing freeing prisoners from the city's jails. They've since pushed further south, claiming complete and rapid control of the northern suburbs of Homs, Syria's third largest city. Overnight, thousands of Homs residents fled towards Syria's western coast. On Thursday, Lebanon's Hezbollah movement pledged its support to the embattled Syrian government, which faces one of the largest challenges to Bashar al-Assad's authority in 13 years of bloody civil war. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Syrians displaced by violence are struggling to survive amidst freezing temperatures. This is Shafika Saida, a Yazidi Syrian whose family fled to a camp in northern Syria.
We were staying in Al-Shahba. They said the Free Syrian Army would enter the area. We were afraid because there were women with us. We were afraid that they would kidnap them from us. Our baby grandson was born on the third day here. We were sleeping outside. There was no tent or anything. We didn't find anything to eat when we got hungry, and there were no ovens to cook. The baby was born here, and we named him Afrin, after our city.
The Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza has again come under intense attack by Israeli forces who stormed the beleaguered hospital, making arrests and ordering others to evacuate. Kamal Adwan's director, Dr. Hassam Abu Safia, also reports many deaths and injuries from Israeli strikes, including 4 medical workers who were killed. Dr. Abu Safia, who himself was severely wounded in an Israeli attack last month, called the situation catastrophic. In southern Gaza, a director of a soup kitchen in Al-Mawasi in Khan Yunis says many families rely solely on 1 meal per day from his operation after the World Central Kitchen paused its Gaza distributions following an Israeli airstrike that killed 3 more of its workers last weekend.
Now, the ghost of famine is beginning to appear here in the southern Gaza Strip. These families can't afford even the low-priced materials and have no source of food except from this charity. Families are relying on this soup kitchen as their only means, as they have found their haven in it. Currently, we are serving more than 800 families, equivalent to approximately 4,000 people.
French President Emmanuel Macron dismissed calls to step down Thursday as he addressed the nation following the collapse of the French government in a no-confidence vote.
The mandate you democratically gave me is a 5-year mandate, and I will carry it out fully until the end. We cannot allow ourselves to be divided or to do nothing. That's why I will name a prime minister in the coming days. I will ask them to form a government in the general interest, representing all the political parties who can participate in it, or at least who agree not to bring it down.
The leader of the Socialist Party met with President Macron today and urged him to meet with the heads of leftist parties.
So the explanation on Wall Street on why the Euro-USD pair is stable is because Macron wasn't thrown out. Now, if Macron was thrown out, then most likely the USD would have strengthened relative to the Euro a lot more. But, you know what happens in France. I mean, anything can. Unrest could happen, at any time. So we'll see.
As the president selects a new prime minister. We'll go to France later in the broadcast. On Thursday, Donald Trump tapped Rodney S. Scott, his previous head of Border Patrol, for Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, and Caleb Vitello as acting director of ICE, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Trump's vow to enact mass deportations as soon as he returns to office. In other transition news, President-elect Trump selected venture capitalist, former PayPal COO David Sachs as his AI and crypto czar. The creative position will require Senate confirmation or financial disclosures, though it's likely to directly benefit Sachs' various business interests in Silicon Valley. Sachs is a close ally of Elon Musk and is expected to push for more deregulation. In related news, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, tapped by Trump to run a proposed Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, met with Republicans on Capitol Hill Thursday to push plans to dismantle the federal government. New federal filings confirm Musk spent over $250 million to help elect Trump. The far-right Heritage Foundation, which created Project 2025, said it's spending $1 million to lobby Republican senators to confirm Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense amidst backlash over his history of sexual assault, misusing funds in his previous positions, possible ties to white nationalists, and various violations committed while drunk in public. He once yelled, "Kill all Muslims," while out at a bar during a work trip. Meanwhile, House Republicans on Thursday voted to block the release of Matt Gaetz' ethics report following an investigation.
It's amazing how democracy now only wants to demonize Trump, his administration, and the nominees. Please help support my work by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. I have resveratrol. It is synergistic with other supplements such as ubiquinol, NAD+, C60. It works the best when you stack it. I've been taking resveratrol for decades, and in addition, it will help with the health of the mitochondria. It's an antioxidant, and it will get rid of senescent cells. That's really important when you stack this and you use it as a protocol to improve your health and slow down the aging process. So go to my store, get the resveratrol. It's a very high quality product. Now, NAD Plus is something that I've added to my stack. Now, the reason why I've added it is that NAD Plus helps with increasing your energy levels, but it also helps the repair mechanism for DNA damage. All right, as we get older, we accumulate DNA damage. Now, some of that DNA damage gets repaired, but as we get older, we have more DNA damage and the body can't keep up. Well, you need a supplement to help with that process of healing your DNA that's been damaged. So NAD Plus does that, all right? So NAD Plus increases your energy levels, it helps with the repair mechanism, and it helps with your neuron health. As you get older, your neurons don't function as well. So you need to take supplements to maintain the peripheral and central nervous system. So please go to my store and get the NAD+. This is stackable with resveratrol. And ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable CoQ10 that you can get, okay? I've been taking CoQ10 for decades, all right? So take ubiquinol. It's the most available CoQ10. Why do you want to take it? Ubiquinol is an antioxidant, helps increase your energy levels, improves the mitochondrial health so that you're going to have more ATP, and it also helps with neuro health and neuroprotection. So when you get older, that's really important. And this is stackable with resveratrol and NAD+. So when you do these things, you're going to see more energy levels, you're going to bring down free radicals, and you're going to be protecting your neurons. Really important. So go to my store, get the ubiquinol, get the NAD+, and the resveratrol. They're stackable together. You can take them separately, but they work really well when you take them together. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And lastly, taking a probiotic is really important. I have two different types of probiotics. I have a powdered form, which is what I usually take. I mix it with hummus. You can mix it with filtered water. It's up to you, or just your food, or a shake, or whatever. There's a little scooper. Take it every day. Or you can take the veggie cap version. Both are very high quality, but it's important to take a good probiotic every day to improve your metabolism, reduce inflammation in your gut, to improve the communication between your gut and your liver, and your gut and your brain. By having a good gut biome, you're going to improve mental acuity, your memory will be improved, your mood will improve, and your skin, hair, and nails will improve. A lot of disease, not all diseases, but a lot of disease starts at the gut. So what you want to do is improve your gut health, and you'll start to see that your systems are improving and your metabolism is improving, and then it's a great way to start on the health journey. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic powder or the veggie cap version. Take it every day, really important, and help support my work. All right, by purchasing the products, you're helping support these live streams, creating a interaction with the audience, and help support your health. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
That Gates was involved in the sex trafficking of an underage girl. He withdrew from consideration as Attorney General. Trump's transition team has prepared a list of countries to which it may deport asylum seekers.
But democracy now. Not constitutional republic now, but democracy now. where it's ruled by the mob. Mob rule. Democracy now. Not constitutional republic now. Democracy now. Doesn't say anything about the Hunter laptop and some of the really bad stuff on the laptop. Right? He's been pardoned on all of it. On all of it. And she's gonna be demonizing Matt Gaetz with some of the things that he was doing? You gotta be kidding me.
When their home countries refuse to accept them. That's according to NBC News, which reports the arrangement could lead to hundreds of thousands of people becoming permanently displaced in countries where they have no connection to communities, language, or culture. On Thursday, the governments of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos said they oppose Trump's deportation plans. Panama and Grenada are reportedly also on Trump's list. Meanwhile, an investigation by the Guardian newspaper finds the Biden administration has for the past year been in the process of extending at least 14 contracts with private sector immigration jails across the United States and exploring options for expanding detention capacity. That's despite Biden's past statements opposing for-profit prisons over their long record of human rights abuses. In climate news, a Biden administration official has told the International Court of Justice in The Hague that historical greenhouse gas emissions should not be considered wrongful acts. State Department legal advisor Margaret Taylor made the argument during a landmark climate case brought by low-lying island nations who face an existential crisis caused by wealthier polluting nations.
International human rights law, however, does not obligate states to mitigate anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, nor does it currently provide for a human right to a healthy environment. Acts or omissions that preceded the crystallization of international obligations with respect to climate change cannot be internationally wrongful acts.
Representatives for China made similar arguments, saying UN climate change negotiations should be the only channel for global climate governance. That prompted sharp criticism from Vanuatu's Special Envoy for Climate Change, who also called out the governments of Australia and Saudi Arabia for attempting to shrug off responsibility for historical emissions. In North Carolina, the town of Carrboro has filed a lawsuit against one of the country's largest electric utilities, accusing Duke Energy of contributing to global heating and lying to the public about the climate crisis. It's the first lawsuit of its kind in the United States. Plaintiffs say Duke Energy waged a deception campaign to hide the role of fossil fuels in exacerbating climate change, resulting in delayed action to curb the impacts of greenhouse gas pollution. The suit also alleges Duke continued to operate its coal and gas power plants despite learning about their harms nearly 60 years ago. Carrboro has faced intensifying extreme weather events, including catastrophic flooding. Duke Energy operates 6 power plants in North Carolina and is the third largest source of carbon dioxide in the United States. UN human rights experts are raising alarm over the criminal prosecution of 2 climate activists who were arrested in New York this summer during a series of nonviolent protests demanding an end to financing for the fossil fuel industry. Alex Connon and John Mark Rosendahl were taken into custody during protests against Citibank and criminally charged with assault and criminal contempt. The assault charge was later dropped, and both climate activists then pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of disorderly conduct. Rosendahl, who is a professional cellist, was arrested in August for performing a piece by Bach during a protest. In a victory for environmental activists, Norway's socialist lawmakers have temporarily halted Norway's plans to move forward with deep-sea mining in the Arctic Ocean by agreeing to support the government's 2025 budget in exchange for the pause. In January, Norway's parliament voted to allow deep-sea mining exploration in a swath of its Arctic waters about the size of the United Kingdom, which scientists warned would severely harm vulnerable ecosystems and even drive species to extinction. On Capitol Hill, police arrested over a dozen transgender advocates, including Chelsea Manning, as they staged a bathroom sit-in protest at a congressional restroom near the offices of House Speaker Mike Johnson and Congressmember Nancy Mace. they chanted, our bodies are new.
I just can't deal with it. The liberals out there, I mean, they hate humans. They hate progress. I mean, think about it. Society, all right, is like water flowing downstream, downhill, right? And it finds the path of least resistance, all right? And the energies that we use to move society forward, the energy densities, right, is because that is the most efficient means possible with the current technology or availability or demand supply curve dynamics, equilibrium dynamics, all right? Now, let's think about this for a second. Do you think your life will be better off if you stop fossil fuels 100% right now? I guarantee you it wouldn't. Your life would not be better. It would be a lot worse. A lot worse. Many of the things that can be done in medicine are because of plastics. Many of the things, all right? You stop plastics and you stop modern medicine. Heating your home isn't going to be done with a solar panel in masses, in masses. So for them to really think about the population densities and the growth curve of populations in the world, and even in the United States, is because of technological advancements, the ability to grow more food, and to have energy to perpetuate the economy, right? A big part of that food increase is fertilizers and putting nitrogen into the ground, all right? You stop that kind of chemical industry, you're not going to grow as much food, and so the population is going to go down. So democracy now, and all these people that are like anti-fossil, right, fossil fuel, they are like, they almost want the population to go down. They're like anti-human. They're not anti-fossil, they're anti-human. Because their policies, you think about it, their whole policy is about save the polar bears, but don't worry about heating your home. Save the antelope, but don't worry about feeding your children. Now, unless we have a major truncation of the population of the world, we're at almost 9 billion, I think it is. And, what, we're supposed to go to 2 billion? Well, how's that going to happen unless, mass die-off? So, a lot of these people, they're young and ignorant, but the ones that are old and ignorant, they're dangerous. It's not the young and ignorant, because usually the young will grow out of it, and a lot of times they're liberal when they're young and they end up being more conservative when they're older, when they realize that liberal policies overtax you and the work you do. So, but the older ones, like the Democracy Now! Host, and if you notice, there's something definitely wrong with her eye. If you look at it very closely, looks like she had a mini stroke. I wonder how that happened. But so the whole point here is that these older super libs, they just hate. There's more hate in them than actually, a positiveness. Now, if technology gets to a certain point where new forms of energy production can be had, great, but we have to get there. And to get there, you're going to need fossil fuel. Maybe fusion is going to be the future. Maybe. They're getting closer to being able to sustain a fusion reaction where it doesn't have the radiation and it's safer. You know, it can do like an automatic shutdown and you don't have the problems with the fission reactions. Maybe that's the future. But you need to design and build those structures. You think you're going to be able to design and build en masse fusion reactors with solar panels? I don't think so. What about making those high-end metals with the metallurgy? You need high temperatures. And not a whole lot of metallurgy companies can smelt metal with using solar panels. So how are we going to get there? The mezzanine to a brighter future, the mezzanine for a more efficient energy source and safer energy sources, that mezzanine is using the portfolio that we have now. We'll get there, but it's going to take time. And the libtards don't realize that. Think about it this way. To light your home, back in the olden days, they used whale oil. And so there were huge industries in the United States and in Europe and in Asia that killed whales for the oil. So you can put them and light your home. Whale oil. Then all of a sudden came kerosene from fossil fuels and totally destroyed the whale oil industry. And so really, fossil fuels saved the whales. Now, Greenpeace wants to stop that. Now, of course, we can light our homes with solar panels, but a lot of society, a lot of industrial society cannot run on solar alone. It's not an energy dense situation yet. We don't have batteries that can hold and charge at the levels at a societal level. Now, could you power your home decentralized? Yeah. And there's a big discussion, should it be decentralized or centralized? I'm about decentralizing. But when you're talking about big industry and melting metal and bending metal and making plastics, guess what? You need high energy densities. Solar isn't going to give it to you. Neither is wind. At least not yet. They're far behind the curve in terms of energy densities. How is wind power or solar power going to allow you to grow more food when you need to put the nutrients into the ground in mass scale? It's because of fossil fuels. The society we have today is bolstered up because of fossil fuels. It's that simple. And you can try to demonize it all you want, but the reality is it's all about physics. And you can't like politicize physics. Physics is physics. Math is math. Natural, laws are natural laws. And it doesn't matter if democracy now likes it or not. The society we live in today is based on a fossil fuel economy. But, they want you to stop using fossil fuels, but they don't want to remind people that through this advancement of mankind, through the eons, that we reduced the harvesting of whales because of the use of fossil fuels. We saved the whales because of oil, because of fossil fuels. Fact. All right. Amazing. All right. before we go to Bloomberg, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I have 3 new products on the store. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. You can get the Boomer Boost. This is a powder. You mix it with filtered water, or you can mix it with a shake or with food. I mix it with hummus. You have 68 nutrients, and this has a great profile of nutrients and vitamins, right? You can use this as almost like kind of like a meal in a way when you mix it with the barley. So you take this every day, and it's a great way to get all the nutrients that you need for the day, all right? What you're gonna notice is that you're gonna have more energy, all right? And this helps with your cardiovascular health. So take this every day. It's a great way to move towards on that journey of proper health. So it's a big scoop. You just take 1 scoop a day, mix it with food, yogurt or hummus, or some other food stuffs that you have, or mix it with water. You can mix it with milk, and create a shake if you want. There's lots of ways to do it, but this is a very high density nutrient powder, okay? It's great to take if you're working out. Take it before your workout and you'll recover quicker, all right? So, and the other 2 products that I have are the Gladiator barley and the heirloom barley. Now, when you buy these from my store, you'll get the larger container. This is the smaller container. You'll get a container double the size on my store. So the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. Now, there's protein in this, so you can use this as a meal, right? And mix it in a shake, or mix it with hummus or yogurt or something. And it's very high density protein, all right? In addition, this is this has superoxide dismutase, so it's an antioxidant. So this is a great way to soak up free radicals. And you can mix it with your Boomer Boost if you want. You can take it separately, right? You can just take this. You can just take this, or you can mix them. Now, if you buy it from my store, it's best to buy the Longevity Boost box because you get a discount, all right? And you get the Boost and your choice of the larger container of Gladiator or Heirloom, your choice. If you get the Longevity Boost box from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, or you can buy them separately. It's up to you. But you do get a discount if you go to my store and get the Longevity Boost box. But if you want them separately, you can do that on my store too. It's up to you. But this has protein in it, it's high density, right? And when you take this, it's actually doing a detox on your body. So it's a dual purpose. You're getting the protein you need. You can use it as a meal. You can mix it and get the other nutrients that you need for the day. And you're detoxifying your body and you're soaking up free radicals. This is good stuff. It's strong stuff, right? And you can use it also as a means to fuel your body to work out. So if you don't work out all the time, that's okay. You can take the Boost and the Gladiator, maybe reduce the amount of scoops that you use of the barley, right? If you're not as active. But if you're more active, this is a great way to do this, to build up your body. And it stacks really well with a lot of the other things that I have, to build up your muscle, to lower the inflammation, improve your immune system, your endocrine system. So this is really powerful stuff. So please go to my store, get the Boomer Boost powder, all right, and get the 68 nutrients, help with your cardiovascular health, and go to the store and get the Heirloom barley or the Gladiator barley. It has superoxide dismutase, so it's an antioxidant, and this has a high density protein in it. So please go to the store, get the great products I have. Again, if you buy the Gladiator barley or the Heirloom barley, you will get a container that's larger than this. You'll get double the size. These are samples for me to try out that, so I was using to see how how my body was working with the other things that I stack it with, and it works really well. But you will feel that first couple days, you will feel a detox that's happening in your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Just to remind the people that are watching, that are live, you can join the X Spaces feed, and it's a live call-in, so you can just raise your hand and tell me what your thoughts are about current events. This is supposed to be interactive. Help support my work by joining the call-in, by watching the videos and purchasing the products. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video. All right, let's go to Bloomberg. I want to find out what's going on with the business news.
I think they may have done that on purpose. But anyway, you can visit bambonds.com, and that's where you go there. Let's check in with Martin Braun. He's a municipal finance reporter for Bloomberg News, joining us live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. He doesn't mail it in. He comes into the office. Martin, talk to us about what's happening in the municipal bond market this year, where I see actually some actual positive returns across broader fixed income. Is the municipal bond market participating as well?
It is, yeah. Munis, investment grade munis are up about 3% this year, and high yield has done really well, 8.3%. And high yield in corporate bonds has also done really well. So there's been, reach for yield and a lot of issuance this year. It's a big year for supply. We had a lot of states and local governments trying to get their bond sales in before the election. And it's a record year this year, and they're forecasting, analysts are forecasting an even bigger year next year, 2025.
So of course Citigroup gets out of the municipal bond underwriting business.
Oh, there you go.
Nice
Good
move.
timing.
Jeez.
We have a lot of money on the sidelines, like in money market funds and also in high yield savings accounts, but those rates are now coming down as the Fed cuts. Does that money go into a place like munis?
Well, I think, you can still get very attractive tax-adjusted yields with munis, on the long end. And, credit quality is still very good. It's not peak, but, the municipal market overall, finances are pretty strong. I mean, New York, we just saw bonuses, and Wall Street is having a very good year this year, and that's good for New York City and state tax receipts. California forecasted a big budget deficit earlier this year, but it's come back because the stock market has done so well, especially tech companies. So credit quality is good. I think there's still demand for munis.
All right, here's a story that caught my eye a couple days ago. Blackstone refinances debt for luxury New York City condo tower with municipal bonds. I'm like, who's the reporter on that story? Turns out it's you. What is Blackstone doing with municipal bond markets?
So
mortgage debt.
This is kind of an old story made new. If you remember, after the 9/11 attacks, the federal government approved something called the Liberty Bond Program, which was a program to allow certain corporations in New York to utilize tax-exempt debt for rebuilding. And it was like an $8 billion allocation. Larry Silverstein got like $3 billion. Bank of America used Liberty bonds to build their headquarters near, Bryant Square. Goldman Sachs used Liberty bonds to build their new headquarters on West Street. And there was an allocation of Liberty bonds that went to this tower. It's called Beekman Tower. It's a big rental building down in Lower Manhattan. And that was built by Ratner, FC, I forget the name of the Forest City. Anyway, Blackstone bought that building and acquired, had the debt on the building, and so they're refinancing it now because it's, they could call the bonds and get a better rate.
I mean, this is amazing. It's actually the cool building. I mean, it looks really, really unique from the outside. So I thought that was pretty cool. So why are they issuing bonds here? Why weren't they issuing bonds a couple of years ago, these municipalities, when rates were a fraction of what they were now? Or are they just issue when they need them, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of issuance, when rates are low. I mean, the reason volume is up too is because things are just more expensive. It just costs more to build, infrastructure. So you're going to have higher dollar volume. But the bond in the case of the Blackstone case, those bonds weren't callable until this year. So
all right, good stuff in the municipal bond market. Martin Braun, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Martin Braun is the municipal bond finance reporter for.
All right, let me do a recap on the market, and before we go to another episode of Democracy Now, talking about Macron, the S&P 500 is at 6,089. I'm a little surprised that it hasn't broke the 6,100 today. It doesn't look like it will. I'm a little surprised at that. BITO ETF for longing Bitcoin is 25.55. The VIX is trading at 12.98, so it's low on the risk side. The oil market is trading at $67 a barrel, and the Euro USD is trading at 1.057. So it's pretty much the same throughout the trading session. And the USD yen is trading at 149.9. So not much movement in the markets right now. I was a little surprised that we haven't broke the 6,100 mark on the S&P 500, but maybe that will happen on Monday. Let's go to Bloomberg. They're talking about AI and the cryptos are.
iPhone SE, and the goal is to overtake Qualcomm's modem technology by 2027. They're going to continue using Broadcom and Skyworks parts in its devices, but will slowly displace parts from Qualcomm and Qorvo. I should point out Qualcomm stock drops.
They're just talking about mobile. All right, let's go to Democracy Now. I want to go and listen to
this is Democracy Now, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Amy Goodman, on her, when you're looking at the screen, there's definitely something wrong with her, with the right side when you're looking at her. It would be her left. But there's definitely something wrong with her face.
Turn now to France, where it is in political turmoil after leftists and far-right lawmakers united to oust Prime Minister Michel Barnier in a no-confidence vote Wednesday. The vote came amidst intense opposition to Barnier's budget proposal and its roughly $60 billion in spending cuts and tax increases, the first time France's government has fallen to a no-confidence vote since 1962. On Thursday, the French President Emmanuel Macron rejected calls to resign, said he'll soon name a new prime minister.
We cannot allow ourselves to be divided or to do nothing. That's why I will name a prime minister in the coming days. I will ask them to form a government in the general interest, representing all the political parties who can participate in it, or at least who agree not to bring it down.
We're joined now from Marseille, France, by Cole Stangler, journalist covering politics and labor issues in France. His most recent book, Paris is Not Dead, Surviving Hyper-Gentrification in the City of Life, in the City of Light. Thank you so much, Cole, for being with us. Talk about what's taken place. This is historic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like you said, it's the first time that we've had a government fall to a motion of no confidence since 1962. This is the shortest lived government really in the history of the Fifth Republic. And we're in this unprecedented situation of turmoil. And I think, we can look back for deeper reasons to try to understand the political crisis that France is in. But if you want to look at it a little bit more simply, this comes down to really two big factors here. One is we have to go back to President Macron's decision to dissolve the National Assembly this summer, a move that might go down as probably one of the greatest own goals, let's say, in French political history. So Macron, when he dissolved the National Assembly, what that meant is we went to new elections, and in those new elections, the National Rally, the far-right National Rally, increased its share. Macron's party decreased its share, and so it left a situation in which you had basically three main blocks in the National Assembly, none of which was able to form a majority of their own. So Macron lost, self-inflicted wound, lost his relative majority in the National Assembly by calling for those elections. And then secondly, again, to get back to Macron's responsibility here, secondly, the crisis has its roots in the way that Macron responded to those elections. So like I said, after those elections, we had three blocks in the National Assembly, the left bloc, the New Popular Front, with a slight lead on the rest, but basically three evenly split blocks. And instead of turning to the parties that, instead of turning to what the voters expressed at the polls, which was support for the center and for the left, Macron decided to name a prime minister on the right. So a prime minister that did not actually reflect what voters expressed at the polls. So it's really those two big issues to simplify. It's one, Macron's decision to call those elections in the first place, which backfired, decreased his party share in the National Assembly. And secondly, the fact that this government here that's fallen did not reflect what voters actually expressed at the polls earlier this summer.
So Barnier is a former EU official. He's been forced to step down as prime minister. The president says he's going to name a new prime minister. Can you talk about who exactly he's talking to? You have everyone from Marine Le Pen on the far right to Mathilde Panot, leader of the left-wing France Unbowed Party, and Marine Le Pen, who now faces a verdict in a criminal embezzlement case in the next months, which could potentially make her ineligible to run for office for years. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, and that also might be part of the reason why there's calls to move to a presidential election in certain parts of the far right. But you know, the key issue here is we still have the same mathematical problem that we had after the elections this summer, which is how do you find a prime minister that's able to get enough support in the National Assembly, or that's able to at least withstand a motion of no confidence. So you have to get someone who cannot have 289 members of the National Assembly vote against them. That's really the goal here. And the question is Macron going to basically try to do the same thing that he did this summer, which is to say, I'm going to turn to the right and de facto let the National Rally be the one that's going to decide whether or not to have the government stand or not, or is he going to turn to the left? That's what the members of the New Popular Front, the left-wing coalition, have been calling for. But to be quite frank, Amy, if you look at the way that Macron spoke last night, it doesn't seem like we're going to have a change of tack. It doesn't seem like we're moving to that Macron wants to name a left-wing prime minister. But again, the main situation here is at a certain point, it's not really Macron's decision to make. You have a mathematical problem. France needs to have a government, and you have three pretty evenly split blocks. So that at some point, that mathematical reality requires choices to be made.
And finally, Cole Stengler, you have President-elect Trump going to France in his first international trip since he was reelected president for the reopening after the fire of Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah, I mean, the timing there is quite remarkable because we have a president now, you know, President Macron. I mean, you could maybe say that both these presidents are very different, or future president in the case of Trump, in different situations. Macron is increasingly isolated, extremely unpopular. If you look at his
we have 10
popularity,
seconds.
Yeah, extremely unpopular president, increasingly isolated. So Macron not in a very favorable position right now.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by getting the products and improve your health. It's a win-win situation. Go to the store and get the vitamin C with the magnesium. This helps to boost up your immune system. It also helps with your skin. A lot of people don't realize that taking vitamin C will cross-link with collagen and improve your skin. So please, go to my store and get the vitamin C and the collagen that I offer. I offer a big tub of collagen that you take every day. NAC is a supplement that I've added to my stack. The reason why I've added it is to increase the glutathione levels. As you get older, you're going to need more glutathione to soak up free radicals. Now, this is synergistic with C60. C60 soaks up the free radicals a little differently, and C60 is very potent. NAC will soak up free radicals through glutathione. Also, NAC helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. And NAC will help to calm your immune system. A lot of people have anxiety, and this will help to calm that down. So NAC is synergistic with some of the other supplements that I offer, like C60 or NAD+, or even ubiquinol. So please go to my store and get the NAC, boost up your glutathione levels. Now it's important to take D3 and K2 together. K2 helps to improve the health of your bones and your joints, but also your cardiovascular system. But it works a lot better when you take it with D3, all right? So with D3, it'll help to soak up calcium, help to absorb calcium when you have it in your diet or in a supplement. So D3 is important to absorb calcium, but also D3 is a gene expression cofactor, and you need your genes expressed, so D3 helps with that. And if your cells need to go into apoptosis, even if let's say that you're in the cold season and you're not feeling so well and you're infected, all right, and cells need to die, need to go into apoptosis. D3 helps with that. So that's why it's important to take D3 during the cold season, but also D3 is very important for cardiovascular health and to bring and to boost up the health of your bones, help with bone density. Works really well when you do a little bit of resistance training and you're improving your bone density. But take vitamin K2, MK7, very high quality supplement with the vitamin D3 that I have on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help with your cardiovascular health and your bone health. And lastly, for cardiovascular health, nattokinase. Take it every day. It'll help to lower your LDL levels, increase your HDL levels, and it's fibrinolytic, so it'll help to break up clots. As you get older, you're gonna have to start, putting a little bit more effort in cardiovascular health. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the nattokinase. Now again, nattokinase is stackable with vitamin K2, MK7, and the D3. Take them together for cardiovascular health. All right. Now, Bloomberg is on commercial, so let's see what else is playing around in the news lately. Let's go to the whole jury with the Daniel.
This Fox News alert, we are on verdict watch in the New York City criminal trial of Marine veteran Daniel Penny. The jury just sent a note to the judge. They are deadlocked on the first count in this case. This is manslaughter in the second degree. CB Cotton at the courthouse in New York City. CB, tell us what you know.
Hi, Dagan, that's right. The jury just passed a note to the judge saying it's unable to reach a unanimous decision on the most serious charge in this case, second-degree manslaughter. The judge said in the courtroom that he thinks he now needs to instruct the jury on an Allen charge, which is essentially telling the jury, you need to go back into the deliberations room, talk more, consider the viewpoints of other jurors, and try to reach a consensus. At that point, if the jury comes back again and still does not have a unanimous decision, the judge would then have to declare a mistrial. But of course, we know if there is a conviction on this most serious charge, there are high stakes for Daniel Penny, who would face up to 15 years in prison. But so far, the jury says it's not able to reach a unanimous consensus on that charge. We know all eyes are on this case across the country. It's really initiated a lot of conversations across the country, conversations on race, policing, and the criminal justice system. Jurors have asked to review lots of key evidence so far in the case, to include the video evidence of the chokehold,
the 25-minute taped interview Daniel Penny had with police at the precinct when he waived his Miranda rights to answer detectives' questions. He didn't know Neely had died at the time. The jury also wanted to see yesterday a 1-minute clip of the chokehold that was captured by a high schooler who was on the subway that day. They also wanted the definitions of recklessness and negligence read back from the judge. So a lot more to watch here at the courthouse for sure, Dagan.
The second, let me back up. An Allen charge, you would think the judge would wait to read what they also refer to as a dynamite charge if the jury was deadlocked on both of these charges, as opposed to just one, because they're still going back to deliberate criminally negligent homicide, correct, CB?
So based on the notes I'm getting from the courtroom, Dagan, the judge is telling both the prosecution and the defense that he doesn't believe he can instruct the jury to deliberate on the second charge because they don't have a unanimous decision on the most serious charge, second-degree manslaughter. So to my understanding right now in the courtroom, he's trying to figure out what to do next now that jurors can't reach that consensus on the first charge.
It's interesting. So there had been 8 notes that had come out so far as of this morning before the jury reconvened at 10 a.m. in Lower Manhattan. 2 were about scheduling, but they definitely seem, and please correct me if I'm wrong, seem to be looking into what was the judgment of the coroner about the cause of death, because that was evidence that was really pushed by the defense about, was it definitively the chokehold that caused the death versus what about the drugs that were in the system? What about pre-existing conditions like sickle cell disease?
Dagan, so jurors wanted to rehear portions of medical examiner Dr. Cynthia Harris's cross-examination when she talked about issuing a second death certificate for Neely. She testified during the trial that she issued that death certificate ruling Jordan Neely's death a chokehold without toxicology results. And she said during the trial that toxicology results wouldn't have changed her mind. And she said that the results could have come back with fentanyl, and her decision was confirmed on the basis of what she saw in that widely circulated video showing Penny restraining Neely. So jurors were particularly interested in that portion of her cross-examination where she talked about issuing the cause of death without the toxicology results. And I've been talking to a lot of legal experts about this case, and they say this is particularly interesting because it appears like the jury may not be able to find causation from Penny's actions and Neely's death.
Very interesting. CB, terrific work. We'll get back to you as this develops. Thank you so much, CB.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps that I offer. I have it in peppermint. I also have it in oatmeal spice. And the other 2 versions that I have are lemongrass and charcoal tea tree. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver soaps. They're very high quality. You can use them as gifts. Get a couple bars for your household, help support the channel, and help support your health. In addition, get the Max 35 or the Max 14. The Max 35 and the Max 14, you just take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle with it, about 20 seconds or so, swallow it, and you're good to go. You're maintaining that mucosal barrier and improving your immune system, neutralize pathogens. It's a great way to improve your immune system. So take the Max 35 or the Max 14, go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, now let's take a look at what's going on. This is kind of it's somewhat of a slow news day. What's going on at the Supreme Court? Let's take a look at that.
Parents, are you doing enough to get your child into a top university? Do you worry whether or not you're doing enough to help your teenager get...
Now turning to this, you're looking live at the United States Supreme Court, and right now as we speak, oral arguments are underway in a case that could reshape national regulations on gender treatments for children. The case surrounds an equal protection challenge to Tennessee's ban on different types of gender treatment for minors. 25 states have bans that could be affected, and it will be the first time that the High Court will consider restrictions on puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgery, life-altering surgery for children. The court's decision could also have broader implications for transgender people, including access to restrooms and participation in school sports. But first, let's bring in Justice correspondent David Scott with more details. David.
Hi, Kaylee. Oral arguments have been underway since 10 o'clock this morning. Shows you how contentious this case is. As you mentioned, the first time the justices have weighed in directly on this controversial issue. The case originates out of Tennessee, involves the treatment like puberty blockers and other hormone therapies. This specific state law bans medical care for transgender adolescents, one of about 24 states with similar measures. In 2023, Donald Trump's campaign promised to ban treatment for adolescents nationally while banning Medicare and Medicaid insurance coverage for such care. Groups for and against the law are outside the Supreme Court. They've been outside the Supreme Court for several hours because, Kaylee, this case will have implications that extend far past the Tennessee borders. This will have a broad effect in all 50 states and go past the walls of a medical facility. Think transgender protections in sports and access to bathrooms. Here's Chloe Cole, an activist against some of this care, who detransitioned. Watch.
To allow them to make a decision that will affect not only the entire course of their development physically, psychologically, and reproductively is completely ridiculous. And it's okay to allow your child to experience this discomfort because it's normal to experience discomfort at the time that you're going through puberty. Everybody goes through it.
LGBTQ groups have eyes on President Biden in his final weeks in office to see if maybe he'll issue some sort of executive order or blanket protection that does not involve what's a fractured Congress right now in Washington. The White House has touted his work with the LGBT community in the past, but many are worried as the Trump administration is coming to town on this issue. We expect a decision from the Supreme Court likely later.
I personally think that they should not be doing gender reassignment when these at the adolescent age. All right. But there's a caveat. There are some people that are born that maybe are karyotypic as a male, but phenotypic as a female. All right? And that usually what happens at birth, there is some sort of surgery that takes place. So you could be XY, right? These are rare cases, all right? Let's keep that in mind. Most of the gender reassignment that's going on in the United States is not what I'm talking about, all right? Most of the gender reassignment in the United States is they are XY karyotype, and phenotypically, so physically, they are XY. Or karyotypic XX and phenotypic XX. And then for whatever reason, psychologically, they feel as though they need to do a gender reassignment. I'm totally against that. If they want to do it when they're an adult, fine. But as a child, no, absolutely not. It should be illegal. Now, for the cases where there is a developmental disorder that takes place, now a lot of people don't know this, but our bodies, humans, are hardwired to be female, not male. And that if something happens during the developmental signaling, that an XY person, right, an XY karyotype may not have XY phenotype because of this developmental issue with the signaling. Testosterone may not be produced, so it doesn't signal to produce testes, right? So in those cases, sometimes there needs to be some sort of surgery to make it look more appropriate for that phenotype. So the person may be XY, but is born looking like a female, and has XX. Having some sort of plastic surgery for that situation, I think is prudent, all right? Now, and not take it the other way, there are cases where, there are people that have XXY karyotype. It's rare. So they have 2 X chromosomes and 1 Y chromosome. And they might be, they're more female, right, phenotypically, but there is a little bit of a masculine part of their development of their genitalia. And in those cases, usually there's plastic surgery to correct the phenotype, right? So these cases that I'm talking about are rare, all right? The problem is happening is that the ultra fucking liberals out there are trying to take a rare situation that's dealing with some sort of developmental signaling problem where the karyotype and the phenotype don't match. It's rare, but they're taking a rare situation and applying it a blanket statement for everybody. Now, most of these gender reassignments, the karyotype is fine and the phenotype is fine at birth and during development. And some issue psychologically happens. Now, I think part of the problem with this gender reassignment that's happening in the society is that the food is affecting their endocrine system. And by affecting your endocrine system, it's affecting certain hormones, sexual hormone concentrations while you're developing. So they're affecting people through the food and the water, unfortunately, all right? That causes a problem. And then you add in the psychological component of psychological confusion, of gender dysphoria. So there's psychological gender dysphoria, there's endocrinological gender dysphoria through the food and the water, all right? And then, there is a gender dysphoria because of this karyotype and phenotype mismatch. But the karyotype-phenotype mismatch is rare. It's rare, all right? It's not that common. And in those uncommon cases, I think plastic surgery to whichever direction the development seemed to be moving towards, go towards that bias of that development and do it early in the child's life, so they grow up somewhat normal with that phenotype. All right, but majority of these cases, it's because of endocrine disruption with the food supply and the water supply, and the gender dysphoria programming in these social media and in the school system. So I'm totally against changing one's gender because of endocrine disruption and because of what's going on psychologically. Totally against it. Now, if they want to do it as an adult, fine. But as a child, no. But if it's a phenotype karyotype mismatch because of a developmental issue, which is rare, then I think plastic surgery near the age of birth is warranted. That's how I take it, And a lot of these people aren't educated enough to understand the nuance of this. Why is it that there's so many cases with the young that have gender dysphoria? It's because of the media, and it's because of endocrine disruption.
In the spring, when Trump is well underway in office. Back to you.
David, thank you.
Thank you.
I listened to the oral arguments. You have highly competent attorneys. Talk about sharp. You have to be to argue in front of the Supreme Court. I listened to Justice Roberts, Tom.
You can be a highly competent lawyer, but still a fucking retard. Especially when it comes to biology.
among others. Definitely the conservative wing of the court seems to be expressing some skepticism of the arguments being made on behalf of transgender surgeries for minors. I do want to rewind to just before these oral arguments. The ACLU attorney who's arguing the case was on CNN and had a statement that I would call eyebrow raising when you do the math. Listen to this.
These are young people who may have known since they were 2 years old exactly who they are, who suffered for 6, 7 years before they had any relief. And what's happening here, it's not the kids who are consenting to this treatment, it's the parents who are consenting to the treatment. And as a parent, I would say, when our children are suffering, we are suffering.
So let's do some math. 2-year-olds who know they want to change their gender. I have had 2 2-year-olds. I don't know how a 2-year-old knows that. And then you add 6 years that they've been struggling. That was advocacy for 8-year-olds having life-altering surgery.
It's what is happening is endocrine disruption and this pulsing in the society, in the media, in advertising, in cartoons, this kind of like a psychological dysphoria catalyst, for lack of a term or lack of a phrase. But there is this psychological component that is being promulgated through media and advertising. When you add that into endocrine disruption in the food supply and the water supply, you're going to have children that are going to have problems in development. But that's because you're poisoning the children. That's because you are bombarding them with like a psychological programming. Now, there are rare cases where the phenotype and the karyotype don't match when the child is born. So you could have an XY and you have the phenotype, the physical characteristics of a female, because of signaling problems or receptors that don't work because of genetics. Rare though. And in those cases, those children that have an XY and an XX phenotype, XY karyotype and an XX phenotype, they normally have some sort of surgery, or vice versa. You may be XX. Usually it doesn't normally happen where you have XX and then you show XY. It's usually XXY. So someone has an XXY chromosome makeup, karyotype, and the phenotype shows a little bit of a male genitalia that's not fully developed. In those cases, plastic surgery, the person's karyotype is XXY, but they're more XX because they have 2 X's than they are Y, and that's the reason why they had this issue. And then, the plastic surgery makes them physically female. Their phenotype is more female. That's the proper way to do it. But 99% of the gender dysphoria that's happening today isn't because of karyotype and phenotype mismatch. It's because of endocrine disruption with the food supply and the psychological dysphoria that's taking place in media and in the school system. That's what's happening. And so the ultra liberals, they're muddying the water again. They take something that is rare, that can be corrected through surgery because of a mismatch between the karyotype and the phenotype, rare. And then what they do is they try to broad brush it to everybody. And you can just do whatever you want. And when you do that, if this happens, then this is just ushering in additional transhumanism. That you could just do whatever you want at an early age. Why not just chop off the arm of your kid and put on a prosthetic? Make him the $6 million baby. Big issues, big issues. So let's not worry about changing the gender of a gender dysphoric child. Why not get to the root cause? The endocrine disruption that's taking place in the food supply. The programming of gender dysphoria in mainstream media. Stop the programming of these children in the school system. It's not okay to have a drag queen throwing dollars in the air, having a lap dance with a 5-year-old. It's not okay.
Pull up the Washington Post KFF poll on this matter. You find 68% of U.S. adults do not think those 10 to 14-year-olds should be able to get this life-altering treatment. I wonder how the nation feels if you change that to, let's say, 8-year-old Tammy.
Yes, and this is the problem. Most of us, if you know, it's children, the tendency here, and I've been arguing against this for years, is for the gay community and other adults who have some sexual issues or sexual frameworks they're dealing with, is to not project it onto children to justify the choices that we're making as adults. And this is what this has been from the beginning. My concern about the Supreme Court goes back to 2020 with the Bostick versus Clayton County decision. And Justice Gorsuch noted, and it was 6-3 regarding discrimination against workplaces, which said, yes, sexual identity or transgenders fit into that framework. His framework was, he used the phrase, if an employer penalizes a person identified as male at birth for traits or actions that it tolerates in an employee identified as female at birth. Now, that is political language taken from the left. It is not scientific. It was using this framework that someone at birth is identifying that baby as one thing or another, meaning that it is fluid. And this is my concern when you're dealing with 2-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, of the assigning or identifying as opposed to it existing through scientific reality. So my concern is, and they're using this case here.
It's as simple as this. A child that's born, what's their karyotype? What's their chromosomes? Their karyotype is going to tell you their chromosomes, right? So is it an XY? Is it an XX? Is it an XXY? Is it XO? Sometimes it's XO, right? So what is it? What's the karyotype? And what's the phenotype? What's the physical characteristics? And from there, you'll understand the development of the child. If it's an XY and it shows normal development physically for the phenotype as XY, fine. But sometimes you have an XY karyotype and you have an XX phenotype. And when that happens, is that there was a developmental issue, signaling, chemical signaling, or receptor issue. Sometimes if your testosterone receptors aren't working and you're producing testosterone, the developing fetus will not develop as a male. It'll develop as a female phenotype. But the karyotype is XY. These are rare cases, though. So what happens is that you have individuals that just say, well, if there's fluidity during development, then there must be fluidity psychologically too, and therefore we're just going to just broad brush everything. Wrong, 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 wrong. So if someone in the medical community is changing the gender of a child by giving them puberty blockers and these things, right? But the phenotype and the karyotype match, I think their license should be pulled. I don't think they should be able to practice because that's wrong. You should not be changing a child's phenotype when their phenotype and their karyotype match. The problem comes in the rare cases where the phenotype and the karyotype don't match. But now what happens is that, it's like going to McDonald's. You pick whatever you want. A lot of times what happens is that the mother or the father didn't get the child they wanted. And they want a Susie, but they got a Johnny. So they're going to tell Johnny, you know what, Johnny, you got to chop off your penis. We're going to send you to the plastic surgeon so you could be a Susie. Even though he is a XY karyotype and an XY phenotype. Big problem. Big problem.
Say that this is a legitimate aspect regarding small children little kids, 2-year-olds, etc. And we should not. It is it's an ideology. It is political, and children should not be thrown into that volcano.
I want to note that oral arguments just wrapped, so that was about 2 hours and 30 minutes on the needle.
It's as simple as this. Phenotype, karyotype, match, no gender reassignment, period, for child. They want to do it when they're adult, fine, that's up to them. But for a child, if the phenotype and the karyotype match, no gender reassignment. It's that simple.
About, if my mind serves me correctly, Roe v. Wade, the arguments there and the Dobbs decision ran about that long. So they have just wrapped. And Emily, I want to bring up a point that I think is very, very, very important. I believe science matters. I believe facts matter. Europe has followed the science on this issue. The United States, we've been wrapped around political arguments. So I want to bring in some of the science. This is International Review of Psychiatry. Listen to this closely. The conclusion from studies that have been conducted is that children with gender dysphoria strongly associated later in life with a lesbian, gay, or bisexual outcome. In the majority of children, 85.2%, the gender dysphoric feelings remitted around or about puberty. In other words, 85% of kids who thought they had gender dysphoria and wanted to change their gender ended up not. 85% around puberty. I want to make this personal. As someone who has had a bilateral mastectomy, because I have a high risk of cancer, it is a life-altering surgery. You cannot reverse it. Removing your ovaries, Chloe Cole made this point, no 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old should go through menopause at that age. Why are we doing life-altering procedures on 85% of children who may change their mind?
And why are states...
Because we have a medical industry that's willing to do anything for a buck. And we have a bunch of crazy liberals that try to litigate science. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. We need people in our society that are more masculine to fight against the crazy liberal mob mentality. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. This will help to build up muscle. And by having muscle, you'll be able to fight the crazy liberals. Myotrol will help to maintain muscle mass, build muscle mass. That's really important when you get older. When you get older, you start to atrophy. And when you start to atrophy your muscles, you don't move around as much, you don't have as much energy, you have problems with your back, posture, and things just go downhill. So taking Myotrol every day as a supplement will help you to maintain muscle and to gain muscle. To improve it even more, what you do is you do a little bit of resistance training, a little bit of cardiovascular training. Do a lot of walking if you want. Do a little bit of weight training. And you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? But the thing is that you need to do a little bit of exercising periodically throughout the week. And by taking the Myotrol, you're going to notice that your muscle mass is improving. This also helps with your mitochondrial health, so your ATP is going up. And what happens is that your skeletal muscle structure gets better and your posture gets better. And when your posture gets better, you're starting moving around because you have more muscle, you have more energy from improved health on your mitochondria, you have more ATP, and lots of other things start to improve in your body. You look at someone old, why do they have poor back posture? It's because they didn't take care of their bones and their bone density, and they didn't take care of their muscle mass. If you have good posture, you have a good muscular structure on your back. It's really simple. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol, take this every day. This has the flavonoids, lignans, and polyphenols to help boost up your development of muscle. Another thing that you should be taking as an adult is vitamin B complex. B vitamins, the first few B vitamins help with the mitochondria, helps to boost up that ATP. See, it's synergistic with the Myotrol. And vitamin B complex helps with cellular metabolism. You need a good metabolism to maintain muscle. And vitamin B complex helps with neuron health. Really important when you get older. Trust me on this. So if you want to improve your central nervous system, you want to improve your peripheral nervous system and the coordination of your muscles and your balancing, you better be taking vitamin B complex. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And omega-3 helps with the cardiovascular health. It brings down LDL levels, increases your HDL levels. You should be taking this, especially when you get older. You need to take care of your heart. So take omega-3 every day to help with your heart. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and don't be a crazy fucking liberal.
And loco parentis and acting as parents to those who are seeking sanctuary with that decision from a parent that seeks only to protect the children's biological body. It is absolutely aberrant. I want to make this point for viewers, that the current administration's Department of Justice filed a brief in this case. Out of nowhere, they decided to join in. And I just want to make sure everyone understands that it is the current administration's Department of Justice that seeks to weigh in and support the mutilation and the butchering irreversibly of this.
The Biden administration is full of crazy liberals. And they're going to try to demonize Trump supporters as the ones that are anti-science. Guess what? I'm pretty sure that any of their staff members at the Biden administration, any of them, you pick any of them, I'm willing to bet that I have more understanding of science than they do.
Of these children, and that January 20th cannot come fast enough, because with the new administration they will seek to restore not only law and order, but also the foundation of biology in the protection of the family unit.
Exactly. It's about God, country, and family. If you demonize the country, and you don't protect the borders, and you don't support our service members, you don't have a country. You're demonizing it. Don't even stand up for the American flag during the national anthem. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's what Biden supports. Demonize the country. Demonize God. Reduce, religious freedoms and the idea of a higher power. Whichever religion that you subscribe to, it's up to you. We live in a free country. But we have an administration with the Biden administration that demonizes religion, demonizes God. So you demonize the country and you demonize God, and then now you demonize the family unit. And you throw in that wedge of gender dysphoria. And now you don't have a society. And this is the reason why Trump won the election. Trump won the election because we are sick and tired of the crazy, woke fucking crap.
Children's whims. Because absolutely what children explore and feel and think are all over the spectrum. And if we can't trust the kids to vote, to drive, to do things, obviously we don't, to smoke, why do we think we can trust them with an irreversible biological butchering, to say the least? But this is Biden's DOJ that just weighed in on this case.
Yeah, and I want to bring in, I want to bring in Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She drew a questionable comparison between children having life-altering surgery and interracial marriage. Listen to this.
What?
Oh, God.
Well, and I think I thought what was most interesting about the potential comparison to Loving is that in that case, everyone seemed to concede up front that a racial classification was being drawn by the statute. That was sort of like the starting point. The question was whether it was discriminatory because it applied to both races and it wasn't necessarily invidious or whatever. But as I read the statute here, the case here, the court starts off by saying that Virginia is now one of 16 states which prohibit and punish marriages on the basis of racial classifications. And when you look at the structure of that law, it looks in terms of, you can't do something that is inconsistent with your own characteristics. It's sort of the same thing. So it's interesting to me that we now have this different argument, and I wonder whether Virginia could have gotten away with what they did here by just making a classification argument the way that Tennessee is in this case.
Harris, Ketanji Brown Jackson is a
This is how AI transforms project management. We're drowning in tasks, and our clients are demanding faster turnaround.
Keep watching.
You know, Harris, Ketanji Brown Jackson is a brilliant jurist.
No,
However,
she isn't.
I
No,
have
she
heard
isn't.
members of The
No, she
View
isn't.
or other media outlets.
No, she's
make
not a
arguments-
brilliant jurist. She doesn't know the definition of what a woman is when she was asked in Congress during her confirmation hearing. I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem.
That somehow interracial marriage is compromised because of a reversal in Roe v. Wade. It seems to me a huge stretch and a leap.
Well, if you're talking about protecting children who literally cannot make medical decisions, as Emily pointed out, there are a whole lot of decisions we don't give them the wheel for. That is one of them. If your goal is to protect children, then that's separate. I'm in a biracial marriage. I'm in an ecumenical marriage. If we're protecting children, how is that going to jeopardize me and Tony? Right? If you're telling me that children are at hand here. Puberty blockers, by the way, one of the #1 drugs is meant to treat prostate cancer. Can you imagine if you put that in a little one's body? Dr. Siegel has said it makes your bones brittle. It stops you from growing the right way. We don't know what it does to the brain yet. It can't possibly help mental health. We've seen a suppressed report that's part of this whole case as well about that, about the effects of puberty blockers. I mean, the goal is to protect the kids, but I'm going to take this in a place that I know I'll get criticism from. I don't care. This is about spirituality as well. When we are born, God decides who we are. You get XX, you get XY. And if you want gender fluidity, it's got to come at a time when you can actually understand and express it. And I'm here to tell you a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old can't do that. So why in the world are we messing with God's creation at that point?
Jenny.
Good point. To the statement made earlier about the 2-year-old needing an advocate. If your 2-year-old is trans or trapped in the wrong body, it's because you've convinced them they are. Okay?
Correct.
As a parent of one child, I can tell you, if you're blessed with the gift of a child, you've taken
It's
a
a
MacBook Air.
combination of the psychological convincing for the gender dysphoria by advertisements and mainstream medias and all this stuff in the school system, but also the food and the water endocrine disruption that's taking place. You stop that, you stop the gender dysphoria. Now, of course, you do have rare cases where you may be XY with your chromosomes, your karyotype, and you may develop XX as a phenotype. It's rare. It's usually because of some sort of developmental issue with not enough testosterone being created when it needs to be created to stop the development of the uterus and to start the development of the male genitalia. Sometimes that happens, right? And so this baby gets born where they depending on the situation, may be androgynous in its physical features, or have a female genitalia, even though that they're a male karyotype. It's rare though, it's rare. All right, so let's stop taking rare things and applying it to, the other problem with gender dysphoria, and that is a psychological catalyst by school systems and by media, and the endocrine disruption catalyst by the food supply. Big problem. So he's just only focused on the psychological component. Guess what? There's endocrine disruption in your water supply, so you better start filtering your water. It's there, all right? Our foods, with all the chemicals that are in it, causes endocrine disruption. So you wonder why the endocrine isn't working so well, why your thyroid isn't working so well, why there's problems with people's menstruation, why there's problems with testosterone levels. It's because of the fucking food.
The packing peanuts, and you're responsible for the direction it takes in life. All right.
Yeah, I mean, my 2-year-old doesn't know what he wants to eat for dinner. He throws it on the floor. It's hardly qualified to decide to change his gender.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McIntyre.
The liberals are crazy. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work. Help support your health. Olive leaf extract is a great supplement. It's a dual-purpose supplement. It's a great way to start on the journey of improving your immune system and your cardiovascular system. In the United States, we have lots of problems with people with having heart disease. We have lots of people having problems with their immune system. Please, please, go to my store. Help with your immune system and your heart and your vascular system by taking olive leaf extract. It's a dual-purpose product. It's easy to start on this journey. Do it. Trust me. You'll get healthier. Please go to the store. Get the olive leaf extract. Lignans is a powder. You mix it with your food or with filtered water, and it will help bring down inflammation. And it's an antioxidant, so it's going to be soaking up free radicals. This is synergistic with the other antioxidants that I've been talking about today. And this will help with your hormonal health. Boost up your immune system. This is for males and females. Really important. Trust me, our immune systems are down because of the crisis that we went through. But you can heal and move the needle upward in terms of better health for your immune system. Go to my store and get the lignans. This brings down the inflammation, and it's an antioxidant. It's a great supplement that you should be taking every day. And digestive enzyme complex. When we're older, we have more stress on our pancreas. So to reduce that stress on the pancreas, take the digestive enzyme complex so you can break down your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your lipids. You'll be able to bring in those nutrients, all right, and reduce the stress on your pancreas. So please go to my store and get the digestive enzyme complex. If you work out regularly, also take the digestive enzyme complex, because what this will do is just help you to refuel your body so you recover quicker. So either if you're an athlete or if you're older and you just need to reduce the stress on your pancreas, really important, take the digestive enzyme complex. In addition, this has bromelain in it, which is an enzyme to help break up clots, because it's fibrinolytic. So this is a great supplement. It's dual purpose. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. All right, let's take a look at Bloomberg. What's going on there?
Bill, not a yes based on what we're hearing, and some are suggesting that this could be a short run here for Pete Hegseth, as Donald Trump also talks to Ron DeSantis about potentially having the job. I've got a little bit of news for you on Ron DeSantis, by the way, but let's hear from Hegseth from last night, talking about some of the doubts surrounding his confirmation on Capitol Hill. Let's listen.
To senators, who are the ones that deserve answers to every question they have, and in every office we've stood in, we've welcomed that opportunity. It has been a great week. It's a process that's ongoing, and we look forward to finishing it.
Wanted to talk to a sage, someone who understands how Capitol Hill works when it comes to the transition and to all the matters we just discussed with Tim Bitchute here, creeping up on a funding deadline and a whole new Congress. Lisa Cabuso-Miller is, of course, that voice, Republican strategist, host of the Friday Reporter podcast, and former communications director at the Republican National Committee. Lisa, great to see you. Happy Friday and welcome back. You've got deep contacts at the Pentagon, and I know that you're closely associated with the national security and defense spaces. There are a lot of concerns, not only about some of the personal issues surrounding Pete Hegseth, and he denies them all, but even in just his lack of managerial experience. Now, before I ask you whether you think he's going to get through the week, we've got a headline here. Donald Trump is going to the Army-Navy game, and he's bringing Ron DeSantis with him this weekend. Now, what do you think about Pete Hegseth?
I've been watching all week, Joe, and I think that the time is running out for this nominee. That's my point of view. This has been a tremendous distraction from the transition. And
I think Pete Hegseth would be perfect for the job, to restructure the Defense Department and the Pentagon, which is needed in the United States. I don't trust DeSantis. One, he's a Yale guy. Two, you know what? he didn't want to play nice during during the primaries. And so DeSantis and Nikki Haley, they're a little bit of a deep state. Now, maybe DeSantis is a little less of a deep state. I don't know. I think that both of them are selfish, self-centered, trying to move up the ladder in power. I don't trust DeSantis. I trust Pete Hegseth. Now, he may have flawed character. Certain things in his character may be flawed. There's certain things that are flawed with Trump, with his personal character. But just because someone has a flawed character doesn't mean they can't do a great job. And this country needs a major restructuring of its defense department. DeSantis isn't going to do it. He's a deep state. He's another one of those. Get a cabinet person in, or a secretary in, just like he had in the first term, and all of a sudden they slow walk his policies. DeSantis is not going to be America first. It's not going to happen. I do not trust DeSantis.
Donald Trump's, ascension back to the White House. So to me, it just doesn't add up. There's so many reasons why this nominee is not the right nominee. It seems like an unforced error, and one that, on all accounts, will not possibly make it to Sunday. That would be if I had $2 to put on this one, Joe, I'd say Sunday is the day.
Wow. All right. So he's not doing well, obviously, and it's not going to be another John Tower. Some folks thought, you know what? Donald Trump says he's going to stand by his man. He said so just this morning. So let's let this thing go through committee and see what the senators can do. That's not the way this ends, in your view.
It just doesn't feel that way, Joe. It just feels like the energy is running out for Hegseth. I mean, yes, he's making some progress on the Hill. He's having meetings and he's answering questions, and that's really part of the process for sure. But to me, all of the other optics behind the scene, all of the questions about whether or not, it sounds like he may already have a pick in mind after Hegseth goes away. So to me, more than anything, I feel like he's probably hearing from the Senate. He's probably hearing from his colleagues in the party. He's hearing from colleagues and people that he knows and works with well inside the Pentagon and inside the national defense space. It just seems to me like this is an unnecessary fight to take on, and it seems like one that might go the way that the Gates nominee went, and that is that he would bow out knowing that it's too big a distraction.
Well, you know what's going to happen next, Lisa, is we're going to turn to Tulsi Gabbard. And considering everything that's blowing up literally right now in Syria, you've got a lot of people saying that she might not make it either. What is that process going to look like?
This is like a whack-a-mole situation.
Isn't that so convenient? CIA funds HTS to create more havoc in Syria to try to overthrow Assad. But then it's right in conjunction with Tulsi needing to be confirmed by the Senate. How convenient the deep state does things to maintain power. Lovely. Lovely.
To me, like, there are really 4 nominees that are very, very vulnerable. The first one we've already seen go, and that's Gates. I think Hegseth, number 2. Seems like Tulsi Gabbard and Kennedy is also on the chopping block. Those 2 guys they'll be the next ones. And look, if you're the transition, you knew that these were going to be.
Heaven forbid that Trump gets someone in that's a change agent. Heaven forbid that you get someone in that can actually restructure the department and make it more efficient and put less stress on our constitutional freedoms. What's wrong with reducing the power of the national security state?
Controversial, and that they potentially might not be nominees that would ultimately get through. But also, it to me feels like it may have even been a strategy, may have been by design that some of these nominees were a little bit out of the box and were an opportunity for nominations beyond those to be ones that would sail right through. So to me, I think that we're going to see that Tulsi Gabbard will be the next one we look very closely at, and we see as one that will also not likely make it over the finish line.
Well, I got to throw this one at you because you mentioned Matt Gaetz. Don't make me bring up Matt Gaetz, Lisa. I have been hearing over the last couple of days a growing level of concern that he is going to show up to fill his seat in January as elected. He has not filed paperwork suggesting otherwise and has only said that he intends to step down. What happens if he shows up? Do you think he does it?
I mean, I hate to say it, Joe, but these are politicians. I mean, so much about politics is ego, right? And so when you step away, he won that seat. And so if he's not going to be AG and he's not going to be a replacement for the U.S. Senate or a candidate for governor in Florida, then in his mind, the way he's moving, seems like he would go back potentially to that seat. The only thing that I think holds him back from doing that is the possibility that then that ethics report that so far has held as a secret and not been released potentially could be by those who want to see him go away for good.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because the House last night blocked the release of that ethics committee report, having forced a vote on this. We talked about that privileged resolution from Sean Casten. Does this thing have to leak now? Because you know it's going to come out, Lisa, right?
It's coming, Joe. It's just, I mean,
look at how she's just smiling and how gleeful that she is. It's coming out. But yet Biden gave his son a blanket pardon on all that nefarious stuff that was going on his laptop. And all the pay-to-play stuff that's going on with the CCP and the Biden family, in Ukraine, and the Biden family. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I know the politics in the United States may keep you up at night, so please go and get the Goodnight Formula from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. There's tryptophan and melatonin in it, and a bunch of other great ingredients to help you go into a deep sleep. 3 cycles of REM sleep, 2 to 3 cycles of REM sleep is really important. When you go into REM, what will happen is that you're going to be consolidating your memory. You're going to be more, you'll have more energy when you wake up. You'll be more well rested, and you're detoxifying your body. Having sleep deprivation chronically may lead to early onset of dementia. And you're going to have mental acuity issues, you're going to have memory issues, and you're going to build up toxins. You don't want that. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. This is going to help with detoxifying your body, getting more energy and be more restful in your sleep, and have memory consolidation. Please go to my store and get the Goodnight Formula. It's really important, since we've been talking about detoxifying your central nervous system with the Goodnight Formula. You know what? Zeolite is a negatively charged molecule that will attach to positively charged toxins and chemicals and heavy metals. And once it attaches, it'll allow you to urinate it out in 6 to 8 hours. So you're detoxifying your body. So you need to be taking zeolite. You should be taking it every day. Take a couple little small drops underneath your tongue, drink it with filtered water. Do that every day, year round. This is the type of zeolite you can take year round. Other people prefer to take it once or twice a year. It's up to you, but it's better if you take it every day. And for the ones that are doing it once or twice a year, take a few drops underneath your tongue, small drops, drink it with filtered water, soak up those toxins, urinate it out, and then do that each day, and then once you're done with the bottle, do that once or twice a year. It's really simple. All right, please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Detoxify your body, really important. And lastly, I have structural nano silver gel. It's a dual purpose product. It helps to heal your skin. It can be used as a skincare and it will help to neutralize pathogens. You can get it in a tube form or in this dispenser that you can carry in your bag. But you should be using this, especially during the cold season. Put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils, stays active for 5.5 hours, and it's going to create a barrier and neutralize pathogens. If you have a cut, an abrasion, a minor burn, put it on there and it will heal quicker. And you can use this as a skincare, daily skincare. Put it on your skin and later in the day exfoliate. And what you'll notice is that your skin is clearer and it's tighter, especially on your face, so you can improve the health of your skin. I have a skin care box, anti-aging box, a beginner's and an advanced version that you can go on the store and get the other supplements and stack it where it's really taking care of your skin. But go to the store, get the structural nanosilver gel, either in the dispenser or in the tube form. Get a couple for your household. You're going to need it during the cold season. Trust me, you're going to need it. And again, it's a dual purpose, so you can use it as a skincare product. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So this is the broadcast for today. So thank you for listening. Just as a reminder, the whole idea of this is that you can listen on X Spaces. You can do a call in through X Spaces. It's all live, and you can see the live feed on the large channel and the live feed on the other YouTube channel that shows the telemetry of the market on a dashboard. All right. You can also watch the live feed on my website. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Support this broadcast and your health by getting the products, sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
My son Ian was diagnosed with